Chapter 528. After the bet was confirmed, Han Fei was even more certain of his idea. Perhaps these people were very strong, but most of them were rookies who had just come out to gain experience. In fact, when he was on the steps into the sea, Han Fei found that although they were not weak, they were not good at fighting. Most of the time, they relied entirely on their talent. Of course, compared with ordinary peak-level dangling fishers, they were indeed very strong. But in that case, they probably didn't know where their limits were, so if they fought with people like Han Fei or the children of the big clans, they would suddenly appear much weaker. Han Fei even felt that the children of the big clans were actually similar. Except for Tang Gu, Chao Tian, Yang Diyu, and a few others, including Sun Mu, they didn't have a good grasp of the battle. For example, Sun Mu, who had a high-level combat skill like the Immortal's slaying formation, kept attacking step by step, intending to slowly strangle Han Fei to death. If it were Han Fei wouldn't care about him at all and would give him a big blow first. Han Fei looked at Sun Mu and the others. "What do you say?" Seeing Han Fei looking at him, Sun Mu snorted slightly. "We won't interfere in the battle between our sect and you. As long as you are confident that you can still fight." Han Fei grinned. "That's more like it." Around them, the irrelevant people retreated one after another. What made Han Fei amused was that the young leaders of the major sects were actually selecting people. Yes, their real number was actually more than 50, but as many as 200 people. But they felt that it was already very humiliating to fight with 10 times the number of people. How could they ask everyone to fight? So, the major sects were in an uproar. "I'll go." "Go away." "I'll do it." "Get out of the way." "These 5 people are so fierce." "You'll be sending your sea-swallowing seashells to you." "Senior brother, I have a secret method." "Senior sister, I'd like to see it." They scrambled to be the first, and the children of the big clans couldn't wait to disassociate themselves from these people. "Have you forgotten why you're here in the first place? You're here to kill the villains." How did it turn into a spar? Especially Li Hai and Li Baizhou, the two of them looked at each other speechlessly. Li Hai chimed in, "They're all so stupid. No wonder all the major sects send their disciples down here in batches every year. They have no choice but to go on adventures." Li Baizhou, "Not only that, even that woman Gong Yuan is stupid enough to want to stop. If we don't go overboard, what's the point of fighting?" Zhang Wen said lightly, "It's good to see their strength. Although the disciples of the major sects have not been through much training, their strength is not bad. At least they are not comparable to those ordinary peak-level dangling fishers." Li Hai shouted, "Bullshit. If we really fight, I dare to bet that within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, he will lose." Zhang Wen said in surprise, "It can't be, right?" Li Baizhou added, "As for Han Fei, that's because you haven't seen him fight. He's as reckless as Chao Tian, Tang Gu, and Yang Diyu." On the other side, Mu Ling transmitted her voice, "In fact, his solution is not bad. These people should not be a match for them." But what about the others? The disciples of large clans aren't as naive as the disciples of large sections. Tang Gu said lightly, "Just do it." Mu Ling rolled her eyes. "I knew you would say that." "Forget it. In fact, even if we are exposed, it doesn't matter. At least no one dares to question my father." Soon, the 50 people on the side of the sect had been chosen. Han Fei smiled. "How long has it been since we last fought side by side?" Zhang Xuanyu licked his lips. "It's been a long time. Not since we came out of the fiery mountain." Luo Xiaobai remained as calm as usual. Lu Renquang directly used the sky-swallowing technique to attract some people. Xiao Chan took the opportunity to directly activate the majestic mystic spell and use the thousand-strike technique to kill Gong Yuan as quickly as possible. Zhang Xuanyu dived into the water. "Then I will wrap you with vines. Don't attack them for the time being. Han Fei, just use the million knife art. These people are all protected and can't be killed." Han Fei asked, what about you? Luo Xiaobai smiled slightly. I want to see how strong the current blue cannibal flower is. When the two sides were only 100 meters away from each other, Han Fei grinned and said, remember, don't try to be brave if you can't beat them. Han Fei, always do things in an open and aboveboard manner. Don't blow yourself up. That's something only idiots will do. The group of people were speechless. Open and aboveboard? Open and aboveboard? In the steps into the sea, you are the most insidious. Someone was speechless. I've worked so hard to cultivate to this point. Blow myself up. Do you think I'm stupid? Who? Just when Han Fei was cursing, a vine directly wrapped Lu Renquang and rushed forward. Who? A huge mouth with a radius of 40 to 50 meters appeared, or it was not a real mouth, but a big hole phantom. In the big mouth, a spiral vortex was frantically sucking at this moment. The seawater rolled back, and many people didn't realize that the battle had begun at all. They were all rushed forward by the huge suction force. At the moment the vine appeared, Xia Shaochan disappeared, and Zhang Xuanyu directly plunged into the water. As for Han Fei, Little Gold had already attached to him and activated the majestic mystic spell, and he rushed at the crowd that was rushing forward like a bolt of lightning. At the moment Han Fei rushed out, all the 99 blue sea wandering dragon daggers left his body and turned into cold knife lights. Almost in an instant, 5 or 6 people were pierced through. Sun Mu, Li Hai, Li Baizhou, and Zhang Wen only felt a toothache. Mo Fian covered her face. Alas! This is really shameful. Chen Aochen and Yi Baiyu, who had been watching from a distance, saw this scene from a long distance and shook their heads. Idiots! The arena had been set up and the distance between the two sides had been narrowed to 100 meters, but they were still not ready to fight? Not good, hurry up and attach to me. Shameless, you haven't said start yet. Despicable. Suddenly, someone said, not good, Xia Shaochan is missing. Manipulators and spirit gatherers, pay attention. No, Zhang Xuanyu has gone to the bottom of the water. Go with him. Armorists, stop Han Fei. However, at this moment, Han Fei's 9-star chains spread out in all directions, and those who were targeted by the 9-star chains jumped up one after another. Some drew out huge double pincers, some spewed polar ice flames, and some floated in the air with tentacles. As a result, when he was about to collide with the 9-star chains, a golden light suddenly burst out from Han Fei's head. Little Gold's huge bird head, like a meteor cutting through the starry sky, crashed into an armorist. Rumble, before the armorist formed a formation with the other armorists, his head was bumped by Han Fei. He thought it was stupid for this person to bump his big shield with his head. In the end, when he felt the unparalleled impact, he was completely dumbfounded. He felt as if a small mountain had crashed into his body. Puff! This person was sent flying backward, and the 9-star chains had been retracted, buckling the armorists who were actively defending. Gong Yuehan shouted, don't panic. Armorists, don't defend. Attack Luo Xiaobai directly. As she spoke, Gong Yuehan held a long sword in her hand and slashed out a shocking sword chi. However, at the moment when Gong Yuehan slashed out with her sword, a dagger was already pressed against her waist during that short pause. Gong Yuehan's reaction was very fast, and she instantly covered herself with a battle suit and a spiritual energy protective cover. However, she was still a step too slow, and she was stabbed by Xia Shaochan at the beginning. Senior sister, Gong Yuehan's breath stagnated, and hundreds of sword chi burst out from her body, and she shouted, don't worry about me. Go attack the opponent's manipulator. As soon as her voice faded, Gong Yuehan felt a terrifying force stabbing at her from the void. At that moment, her eyes turned cold, and she waved the long sword in her hand. However, before the sword was fully raised, Gong Yuehan felt a fluctuation in the void, and the strange dagger had appeared in her chest and abdomen. Swish! 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 In an instant, hundreds of lights and shadows flashed by. Gong Yuehan was stunned, and her spiritual energy protective cover was broken in an instant. The high-quality battle suit on her body was shattering. A blue light suddenly appeared, and Xia Xiaochan's dagger couldn't stab in. It was Gong Yuehan's amulet. The amulet didn't necessarily activate on its own. When it sensed that its owner was in a life-threatening crisis, it would automatically activate. Xia Xiaochan's first stab was aimed at Gong Yuehan's waist, which was not fatal. But the thousand-strike technique attacked the whole body indiscriminately, and several attacks were aimed at the heart. Didn't the amulet activate? Xia Xiaochan shouted, "You lost. Back off." Gong Yuehan was extremely ashamed. She had always thought that she would be one of the few people who would eventually kill Han Fei, but she didn't expect that she would be eliminated so early. How long had it been? Had 3 minutes passed? And the fundamental reason was that she had just launched a sword strike in advance, leaving a very short time gap for Xia Xiaochan. In the distance, Tang Ge kept nodding. "Yes, my sister-in-law can do it." Mu Ling rolled her eyes at him. Chapter 529. The scene was extremely chaotic. All the disciples of the 7 major sects, including the Heavenly Sword sect, were dumbfounded. They had never seen this before. In their opinion, this was all a dirty trick. When they were in the sect, it wasn't as if they hadn't participated in team competitions. On the contrary, they had team competitions almost every day, but they had never seen this kind of fighting style. Did they go all out as soon as they came up? Gong Yuehan was defeated in less than 3 breaths with that speed and attack power. Chao Qiu was very excited on the fishing boat. "Good job. Come on, sneak attack another one." "Alas. Sister, don't pull my ear." On the field, there were no less than 8 armorists attacking Luo Xiaobai. The 8 of them had used up all their skills. One of them slashed out a huge knife light 50 or 60 meters long. 2 people took out swords and knives from their armor boxes, directly rolling out a tornado of knives and swords on the sea, covering a range of more than 30 meters. As for the others, some had big swords hanging in the sky, and some had turned into huge water centipedes, looking very fierce. However, as soon as they got into position, Han Fei's 9-star chain buckled at them. Seeing that Luo Xiaobai had been rolled up in the tornado of knives and swords, they slashed at Han Fei's 9-star chain. Clank, 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 as soon as they collided, a huge arched circle surged on the water surface. Immediately, an armorist shouted, "Be careful of Zhang Xuanyu underwater." Immediately, 2 people's clones bombarded the water. Rumble, a violent impact broke out on the water surface, and several figures were blasted away as soon as they went to the sea. When they took a closer look, weren't they the 3 soul warriors of the Mountain Sea Pavilion? Puff! Someone shouted angrily. "Why are you hitting us?" The 2 armorists were taken aback, but then they suddenly heard a voice behind them. "Are you looking for me?" 9-layered waves in furious sea. The remaining armorists were horrified. "Be careful." However, just as they shouted the word, "Be careful," they suddenly felt their bodies tighten. Unbeknownst to them, there were already several vines on their bodies. Get lost. These armorists were not afraid of the vines at all. They were armorists. How could an existence that could control weapons be afraid of things like vines and seaweed? But who would have thought that these vines were incomparably tough? Moreover, more vines continued to grow on top of the vines. In just a breath of time, they were practically tied up like dumplings. At this moment, Zhang Xuanyu's 9-layered waves in the furious sea kept stacking up and Han Fei rushed in. It only took 3 seconds for all 8 armorists to be eliminated. There were also 3 battle soul masters who had been knocked out as well. At this moment, they were bound by the vines, and hundreds of green vines were frantically lashing at them. They had already turned into fish heads. In less than 10 breaths of time, there were less than 25 sect disciples left from the original 50. And all of this was because Han Fei took the initiative. Lu Wuwei, the leader of the Death Door sect, roared, "Manipulator, watch out for Xia Shaochan. Some hunters were already chasing after Xia Shaochan, but how could they catch up with Xia Shaochan, who had activated the majestic mystic spell? Every time their silhouettes flickered, a manipulator would fall. Sometimes, Xia Shaochan didn't even attack the manipulator at all but directly rushed to the battle's soul master. As long as Xia Shaochan got close to them, they would be stabbed at least twice. Lu Renkuang didn't do anything. He just kept roaring and swallowing, creating pressure for those battle soul masters. Now that there were fewer people, he stopped swallowing and used the knife burial technique and the armor art at the same time. He didn't aim to kill the enemy, but just to restrain them. On the surface, the most conspicuous one was Han Fei. He rushed left and right alone, and golden fist lights burst out in all directions. And Han Fei roared and gave his fist technique a name. Big Fish Meteor Fist. Chu Sun was angry. He couldn't catch up with Han Fei and Xia Shaochan. As for Lu Renkuang, as soon as he approached, he felt that he was about to be sucked in by that big mouth. Zhang Xuanyu, as a battle soul master, appeared and disappeared mysteriously, and now he ran into the water again. As for Luo Xiaobai, he thought that the 8 armorists could be easily defeated, but who would have expected that all the armorists would be eliminated in the blink of an eye? Han Fei was facing Chu Sun at this moment. His fists were dazzling, like a scorching sun, making Han Fei look like a golden-armored god of war. Ha! Ha! Outside the field, Chen Aochen and Chao Tian exclaimed at the same time. Chao Tian's eyes were full of expectation, and Chen Aochen's eyes were scorching. Han Fei also used his fists just now, but not as powerful as now. The art of invincibility was already shocking. When Han Fei completely broke out, it immediately attracted the attention of these two people. Using fists was actually more difficult than using weapons such as knives, swords, axes, and other weapons, because your attack range was not as long as others, so those who practiced fists had to have a strong physique. For example, Chao Tian could resist Han Fei's draw technique with his fists. Chen Aochen, for example, could still fight Tang Gu after being swept by a round of ultra-quality spiritual weapons. His physique was really amazing. It seemed that Han Fei was on par with these two at this moment. It must be noted that Han Fei had just started to practice the art of invincibility. Feeling Han Fei's strength, Chu Sun didn't dare to slack off at all. A long sword rolled up furious waves, which turned into swords, and the seawater tens of meters long suddenly flashed. Someone exclaimed, "It's the 6 styles of Grand Void. Has Chu Sun mastered it?" Bam! The giant sword wave nearly 30 meters long was shattered by Han Fei's punch, but Chu Sun had already launched the second attack, and thousands of sword currents emerged in the seawater. Han Fei grinned. Such sword currents are so much weaker than the immortal slaying formation. How dare you use it? Humph! Seeing that Han Fei didn't prepare to defend at all, Chu Sun launched the third attack, but the seawater surged up and directly wrapped Chu Sun's body. Ji Wenxuan and the others looked excited. The third style of the 6 styles of Grand Void, body as the Sea of Swords. Senior brother Chu Sun has grown to such a level. Chao Qiu shouted, "Be careful, this sword attack will last for a long time." Chao Tian said lightly, "Don't worry. The Sea of Swords is not weak, but it's no match for Han Fei in terms of strength. If he can use the 4th style, he may be able to fight you." Oh! Hearing this, Chao Qiu immediately fell silent. Chu Sun's body was wrapped in the seawater that rolled up backward, and a sword chi traversed 100 meters and rushed straight at Han Fei. Ignoring the seawater sword currents, Han Fei charged into Chu Sun's 100-meter-long seawater sword currents. Boom, 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 Chu Sun gritted his teeth. Is this guy still a fucking human? This guy actually rushed all the way in while carrying the Sea of Swords. The disciples of the major sects outside the arena were all stunned, and many people opened their mouths wide. Gong Yuhan stared at Han Fei. He's too strong. This person's physique is so strong that she can't understand it. On the side of the Heavenly Sword sect, Tang Ji's blood surged as if he was about to explode at any time. He was so excited. Mu Ling's eyes flickered. This pair of brothers are really strong. When Feng Zhe brought Tang Ge to the Thousand-Star City, why didn't he bring Han Fei with him? If he could bring Han Fei with him, he would definitely be an outstanding talent among the younger generation. Tang Ge grinned and said, Chu Sun can't. He lost even after using the fourth style. Huh. Han Fei punched through the huge wave swords and rushed straight at Chu Sun like a stream of light. Seeing that Chu Sun was bound to be defeated, someone shouted, the first death door. Above the sky, a huge door shadow descended from the sky. Clang, the waves were shattered, the door was broken, and the fist was destroyed. Han Fei turned his head, only to see that it was Lu Wuwei, the leader of the Death Door sect. At this moment, his blood was surging wildly, and he shouted, the second Death Door. Han Fei had once experienced the power of the Death Door sect. Its defense was indeed extremely strong. Only after making a breakthrough and using the art of invincibility could he break the first door. As for the second door, sacrificing punch. Instead of the dazzling golden fist mark, a huge blazing crimson fist shadow surged out at full speed, breaking through the sound barrier in the blink of an eye, and the friction with the air produced brilliant sparks. Dong, the second spiritual light door descending from the sky, was directly smashed through, and the fist light continued to move forward, directly hitting Chu Sun. Kacha! A blue light flashed and then broke, and Chu Sun's amulet was broken. At the same time, Chu Sun hurriedly released 2 sets of high-quality battle suits, which were also broken. In the next second, Chu Sun was blasted into the sea. Countless people were dumbfounded. The amulet was broken in one blow? Damn it, just how strong is this Han Fei? Chen Aochen's face suddenly changed. What a strong punch! It broke the second death door, the amulet, and 2 sets of high-quality battle suits. This guy, Chao Tian's eyes narrowed slightly. What a terrifying fist mark! Great! 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 Although shocked by the power of Han Fei's sacrificing punch, Tang Ge, Chen Aochen, and Chao Tian all cheered. The 3 of them only felt their blood surging in their bodies. This was a battle between men. It was so fierce and violent that they couldn't suppress the excitement in their hearts at all. In the field, especially the girls of the Jade Fairy Palace, almost all the girls couldn't help clenching their fists. What a domineering man! This was the only reaction they had at this moment. As the saying goes, beauties love heroes. Han Fei's current state, his domineering and unparalleled posture, made them dizzy. He was too manly. Even a proud girl like Gong Yuehan couldn't help but open her mouth. She really couldn't connect this man in front of her with the sinister and cunning Fan Datong. She wished they were 2 people. Chu Sun was defeated. LV Wuwei did not even have the time to use the 3rd gate of death before his waist was stabbed. A shadow entangled him and stabbed him 5 or 6 times in the blink of an eye. It did not stop until his protective amulet bounced back. In a moment, more than half of the leaders of the major sects were defeated. How could the remaining people resist the bombardment of Han Fei's group of 5? Especially after Han Fei stuffed a mass of candle dragon blood into his mouth, a monstrous murderous aura burst out of his body like a god of war. Who dared to fight him? In less than 10 minutes, the remaining people of the 6 major sects were blown to pieces, and the whole field became extremely quiet. The whole field was silent, except for the sound of the waves lapping against the fishing boats. The sea breeze seemed to have stopped blowing, and all the students of the 7 major sects were in a state of stupefaction at this moment. Especially on the side of the Heavenly Sword sect, many people swallowed. They were really glad that they didn't participate in this gambling battle. Although they thought they were a little stronger than the other major sects, they were not much stronger. If they really went up to fight, with their combat power, they would definitely be crushed in the sea. The students who had been robbed by Han Fei before looked embarrassed at this moment, and the little girl even secretly stuck out her tongue, thinking that she just lost a sea-swallowing seashell. At least she didn't lose the prestige of her sect. But at this moment, except for the Heavenly Sword sect, the other major sects were utterly humiliated. Even if they used their butts to think, they knew that this matter couldn't be hidden. After returning to the academy, these people would probably be hung up and beaten by the school teachers. Luo Xiaobai stood at the bow of the boat, looking at the people of the 6 major sects coldly. Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renquang broke out of the water at this moment and stood beside Luo Xiaobai. Xia Xiaochan's posture was even more handsome. She flashed and landed on the boat. Only Han Fei stood on the sea, and the 99 blue sea wandering dragon daggers disappeared into his body rhythmically one by one. Han Fei grinned and said, "Hey! You lost the bet. Hand over your sea-swallowing seashell." The disciples of the major sects, who had been beaten to a pulp, were all embarrassed at this moment. The guy who had bragged just now wished he could crawl into the water and never come out again. However, they had already lost the fight. Should they break their promise? This was absolutely impossible. They couldn't afford to lose face, let alone the 6 major sections. So, as Gong Yuehan threw her sea-swallowing seashell over, the 50 people also threw their sea-swallowing seashells over. Han Fei didn't move. Vines rose from the sea and easily buckled those sea-swallowing seashells. Chu Sun was carried out of the sea, with a large patch of seaweed on his body. He had vomited blood under the sea just now, so he could barely stand there now, but his face was very pale. Chu Sun said with difficulty, "Han Fei, I'll remember you. I look forward to the day when you enter the 1,000-star city. At that time, I will master the 6 styles of Great Void and fight you again." Han Fei sneered. "The 6 styles of Great Void? When I go to the 1,000-star city, even if you master the 16 styles of Great Void, so what?" Humph. Gong Yuehan was one of the fastest to be defeated, and she was too embarrassed to speak at this moment. However, as the leader of the sect, she couldn't back down and could only brace herself to stand at the bow of the boat. Han Fei laughed and said, "Now, the matter between the black and white ghosts and the 6 major sects is over." With that said, Han Fei glanced at Sun Mu. "Hey! What do you want to do now?" Han Fei counted the disciples of the big clans. Among them, Chen Aochen and Yi Baiyu were the furthest away. However, these 2 people put a lot of pressure on Han Fei. Chen Aochen should be no match for him. Yi Baiyu's speed was too fast. Among the 5 of them, even Xia Xiaochan might not be able to keep up with Yi Baiyu's speed. Fortunately, this guy was only fast, but not strong. Chao Tian and the others shouldn't take action. Li Hai and Li Baizhou had been tricked by him before, so they should take action. As for Zhang Wen beside them, Han Fei had never met him before, so he didn't know him yet. But since that person was qualified to stand with Li Hai and the others, he must be extraordinary. As for Sun Mu, Mo Fian, and Yang Diyu, they were already old opponents, so Han Fei knew them very well. These 3 people shouldn't be a big problem. But the problem now was that there were 8 people on the other side, including the servants of their families, while there were only 5 people on his side. They were not like the arrogant disciples of the 6 major sects who had never seen the world. Perhaps it was because the disciples of the big clans cultivated the next generation differently. They might give the next generation a lot of protective treasures, but in terms of experience, they had experienced a lot. Of course, after careful consideration, Han Fei felt that the others were not a problem, but Yi Baiyu was a big problem. Perhaps he wasn't strong enough, but if he were to launch a sneak attack, he would definitely cause the entire team to collapse. Han Fei immediately looked at Zhang Wen, who he didn't know. "Are you going to participate too?" A faint smile appeared on Zhang Wen's face. The big clans in the 1,000-star city are not exactly united, but since everyone is participating, I can't stay out of it. Li Hai said, "Han Fei, you can't avoid this battle. However, even though you've cheated us, we're still easy to talk to. As long as you hand over the sea token, the 2 of us will withdraw immediately." Han Fei sneered. These people were not easy to fool. Even if he really gave them the sea token, would they really not participate? After all, they needed to preserve their strength and protect the sea token. But what if these people beat him first and then went to fight for the sea token? Thinking of the fake sea token in Forge the Universe, Han Fei fell into thought. He could give this fake sea token out, but not now. At this moment, Chao Qiu said to him via voice transmission, "When you use the Poison King smoke, remember to tell me. I'll fly higher." Han Fei frowned. The Poison King smoke was a good thing, but unfortunately, he couldn't use it now, or he would easily expose himself. Next to Chao Qiu. Chao Jiaran smiled faintly and said, "Qiu, these people you have made friends with are really good, but I'm afraid it won't be easy for them to escape. At this time, they can't disperse, so they will never use flash stones. I really can't think of a way for them to escape." Chao Qiu raised his head and said, "Han Fei can beat several of them." Chao Jiaran shook her head slightly. "Even if he can beat 3 of them, he still can't escape." Chao Tian still looked simple and honest. At this moment, like a passerby, he smiled and said, "The problem is Chen Aochen and Yi Baiyu. If they don't take action, Sun Mu and the others won't be able to stop Han Fei and the others." At this moment, Han Fei jumped onto the fishing boat, stepped on a spirit-gathering array, and was injecting spiritual energy into the bodies of Luo Xiaobai and the others from his fingertips. In the battle just now, everyone had consumed a lot of spiritual energy. The reason why they didn't immediately inject spiritual energy into Luo Xiaobai and the others was that once this behavior began, it meant that the battle had begun. These children of the big clans didn't care whether you had fought just now or not. As long as they could win, they didn't care. Han Fei hurriedly said, "Let's get rid of that Zhang Wen first. He's looking for trouble for no reason. Xia Shaochan, pay attention to that Yi Baiyu. He is extremely fast. Among the 5 of us, the only one who can match him in speed is your teleportation." Just when Han Fei was injecting spiritual energy into them, Sun Mu and the others moved. Almost immediately, Chen Aochen and Yi Baiyu also rushed over quickly. Especially Yi Baiyu, this guy's speed was almost unbelievably fast. He was really like a beam of light, approaching in the blink of an eye. Start. Luo Xiaobai and the others each took out a spiritual fruit and stuffed it directly into their mouths. A spirit gatherer instilled spiritual energy quickly, even faster than directly swallowing spiritual fruits, but Han Fei was not a spirit gatherer at this time. At that moment, a huge flower bud appeared, directly wrapped Han Fei and the others, and directly submerged into the sea. Yang Diyu roared, "Do you think we can't perceive it?" However, when Yang Diyu perceived it, he was stunned. "Ha! Where are they?" The others were also stunned. "Wait a minute. Did they disappear right under their noses?" Yi Baiyu shouted, "No, be careful of the hexagon starfish." Everyone perceived again and found that the hexagon starfish had already moved in the direction of Li Hai, Li Baizhou, and Zhang Wen. Boom! A golden fist mark broke out of the water, targeting Zhang Wen. 9-layered waves in furious sea. Armor art. Supreme stab. In an instant, the place where Zhang Wen was exploded, and all the attacks rushed towards him. Especially Xia Shaochan, her speed was so fast that she appeared beside Zhang Wen in an instant. However, Zhang Wen's reaction was also extremely fast. He instantly put on a high-quality battle suit, activated his spiritual energy protective cover, and 3 glowing pearl balls appeared beside him. Clank! One of the balls blocked the supreme stab, but that ball was also pierced by Xia Shaochan. Immediately afterward, the invincible fist mark and the 9-layered waves in furious sea came at him. Zhang Wen's face changed drastically, and he directly used his amulet. He was not like those idiots from the 6 major sects who didn't know how to use their treasures. Han Fei and the others were obviously coming for him. If he still didn't act, he was 100% sure that he would be beaten into an iron-head fish in an instant. The others quickly rushed over. Yang Diyu roared, holding the double axes, Mo Fian waved the snake-shaped sword, and Sun Mu directly used the immortal slaying formation. Chen Aochen slightly opened his fists, and before he arrived, his fist marks arrived first. However, at the moment when Chen Aochen punched, a giant blade light broke through the water and directly shattered his fists. Then the giant blade danced again and chopped at Yang Diyu. Clang! Yang Diyu and Chen Aochen immediately shouted angrily, "Tang Gu, what do you mean?" Tang Gu held his head high and glared at the two of them coldly. "I don't like you too. Let's have a fight." Yang Diyu, Chen Aochen, everyone was surprised by Tang Jiyi's sudden attack, and then they wondered if it was really because he had saved Mu Ling. To be honest, with Mu Ling's identity, others could rob her, but it was impossible for them to kill her. Besides, if this was counted as a favor, it should be a matter between the 7 major sects, right? Tang Jiyi's attack at this moment showed that he didn't hesitate to fight even if he had to offend the major clans. Was the reason really so simple? On Zhang Wen's side, because it happened so suddenly, Li Hai and Li Baizhou directly dodged. This led to Zhang Wen being ganged up on at this moment. At this moment, he took a punch from Han Fei, and the second ball outside his body was also broken. Then, Lu Rinquang's armor art had already smashed his third ball. Zhang Xuanyu was the only one left, and the wine-stacked waves in the furious sea confronted Zhang Wen head-on. Zhang Wen was horrified, and a big 6-winged fish appeared. But before he had time to run, he found that his lower body had been buckled by circles of vines. Bang, bang, bang! 9 blows in a row, each wave stronger than the last. Zhang Xuanyu, who had used the majestic mystic spell, was definitely not weak. Every blow of the wine-stacked waves in the furious sea fell on Zhang Wen's amulet, making a loud noise. After 9 consecutive blows, Zhang Wen was shocked and swallowed 3 mouthfuls of blood, and his amulet flickered. Li Hai and Li Baizhou, who were closest to him, came to their senses and rushed over. However, 2 more Zhang Zuanyas appeared in the sea, blocking the way of these two. Yi Baiyu, who was already close to them, slashed hundreds of times with his sword in the blink of an eye. But suddenly, hundreds of black cracks appeared in the air. Xia Shaochan used the shadowless blade, and in the next second, Xia Shaochan landed beside Yi Baiyu, her dagger leaving several shadows in the air. Unfortunately, Yi Baiyu's speed was too fast. Even if Xia Shaochan teleported over, Yi Baiyu still dodged her dagger with a twist of his body, and the dagger just grazed Yi Baiyu's clothes. Boom, boom, boom. Han Fei had already punched Zhang Wen's amulet dozens of times, and the amulet was almost destroyed. All this happened in just one breath. Unable to kill Zhang Wen in one breath, Lu Rinquang made a move. At this moment, he gave up on Zhang Wen and took out all the knives and swords from the armor box, which flew towards Sun Mu and Mo Fian. Immortal's killing sword Qi. Water dragon roar. The purple sword Qi appeared and fell on Lu Rinquang in the blink of an eye. Puff! Puff! A few sword marks appeared on Lu Rinquang's body, but there was no hole. This surprised Sun Mu slightly. Is he also a body-refining cultivator? Lu Rinquang's eyes were crimson, and a murderous aura burst out of his body. Violent war body. Sky-swallowing technique. A big mouth appeared, and the 2 dragons that had just broken out of the water and played with pearls were directly swallowed in one bite. Mo Fian exclaimed, "Damn, what kind of special technique is this?" Not only Mo Fian's water dragon roar, but also the immortal's killing sword Qi was also swallowed, which surprised Sun Mu and Mo Fian a little. When watching from the outside, they just thought that this fatty was just a bystander. Although the sky-swallowing technique sucked in a lot of people at that time, it couldn't really suck them in, so everyone thought that Lu Rinquang was just an empty shell. But at this moment, when they personally experienced the strong suction ability of this big mouth, they immediately understood. No wonder many people couldn't even resist when they were sucked in. Their bodies seemed to be sealed, and they could only retreat a few meters with all their spiritual energy. Inside the amulet, Zhang Wen felt dizzy from the beating. Why am I being beaten up by a group? If I have a chance to fight back, I can at least beat one of them, can't I? Han Fei didn't care what it was. The amulet was indeed powerful. Then have a taste of my sacrificing punch. Who? Zhang Wen couldn't stay calm anymore and immediately roared, Li Hai, Li Baizhou, you two idiots. Come and help me. Thud Kacha, the amulet was already about to break at any time. How could it withstand the sacrificing punch? Without even struggling, it was blown up by Han Fei's punch. But at that moment, a dark red rune array appeared. The sacrificing punch bombarded it, but failed to penetrate it and just blasted Zhang Wen to the bottom of the sea. Before Li Hai and Li Baizhou arrived, Zhang Wen, who had been hit by Han Fei's sacrificing punch, disappeared from everyone's perception in the blink of an eye. Only Chao Tian said lightly, blasted into the mud, Zhang Wen is disabled, and even the immortal seal has been forced out. But under the protection of the immortal seal, he is not dead yet and can't be reborn. I'm afraid he will be disabled for a few months. Young master. In the distance, the guardians of the disciples of the big clans who were not so fast and were rushing here were stunned. How long has it been? In less than 2 minutes, even the immortal seal of our young master has been forced out. The disciples of the 7 major sects who were watching around were also dumbfounded. On the side of the Jade Fairy Palace, a girl next to Gong Yuehan pulled her clothes and said, Senior sister, Zhang Wen. He was also defeated in 2 minutes, and even his amulet was broken. But, what is that rune array behind him? Gong Yuehan narrowed her eyes. That's called the Immortal Seal. It's a method that the big clans use to protect their outstanding disciples. Gong Yuehan was very upset. Too fierce. I've never seen anyone fight so fiercely in my life. The disciples of the other major sects were also dumbfounded. Han Fei and the others are too fierce, aren't they? More than fierce. With their talents, they would definitely be the cream of the crop in any large sect. Thug Academy, what kind of academy is that? However, the situation on the field suddenly changed. Chao Qiu roared in the sky, Luo Xiaobai, be careful. But Yi Baiyu found that Xia Shaochan was very annoying. She turned into a shadow and teleported. How could he fight her? She couldn't hit him, but he couldn't hit her either. So, Yi Baiyu gave up Xia Shaochan and turned to run to Luo Xiaobai. Luo Xiaobai was a qualified support. Otherwise, Zhang Xuanyu, who was fighting with Li Hai and Li Baizhou, would have been defeated. Zhang Xuanyu had just become an advanced dangling fisher, and he didn't have a physique like Han Fei. Although his combat power was good, he was no match for Li Hai and Li Baizhou. The reason why he could fight with these two was that Luo Xiaobai's vines were too difficult to deal with. Luo Xiaobai, who had become a peak-level dangling fisher, easily created a jungle-like area on the sea. It was 500 meters wide and hundreds of meters high, almost locked by vines. Moreover, vines would continue to grow on the vines, locking the Li brothers tightly. At this moment, Yi Baiyu rushed over like a stream of light. Luo Xiaobai stretched out her hand and pointed, and colorful petals bloomed in the air. For a time, all kinds of pollen completely enveloped Luo Xiaobai and Yi Baiyu. Ha! Outside the field, Chao Jiaran suddenly froze. She looked at Chao Tian next to her and said, Luo Xiaobai, is she from that family? Chao Tian smiled and said, it should be. Except for that family, no one else can use the Grand Spirit summoning art. On the side of the Heavenly Sword sect, Mu Ling's eyes flashed. The Grand Spirit summoning art? Mu Ling was a little surprised. Why was that family with Han Fei and the others? Didn't Tang Ge say that Han Fei and the others were just studying in the village? However, in the colorful pollen mist, several meters thick vines occasionally flashed by. After a few minutes, there was no more movement. After killing Zhang Wen, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp under Han Fei's feet flashed and arched to the bottom of the sea. And after receiving Luo Xiaobai's message, he rushed directly to Sun Mu and Mo Fian. Seeing that he couldn't win, Sun Mu directly crushed a flash stone with spiritual energy and escaped from Lu Renquang's sky-swallowing technique. Mo Fian was not stupid. Seeing Sun Mu flashing away, she also flashed away. Now that young master had run away, the servants couldn't continue to rush up. Li Hai and Li Baizhou looked at each other and also withdrew from the battle. The three Zhang Zuanyas were almost the same in strength, and they were using secret methods, so it was very difficult for them to fight. 8 minutes. Chao Jiaran said lightly. Chao Qiu was dumbfounded. Wow! Well done. These people are too weak. They were killed in 8 minutes. Then Chao Qiu shouted excitedly, Han Fei, don't let them go. Kill them. Alas! Sister, don't pull my ear. Chao Jiaran scoffed. Don't yell. When you have the ability to kill them, you can go and kill them. That's your own business. You have to do your own business. Chao Qiu snorted and didn't speak, but he was still very excited. Hearing Chao Qiu's roar, Han Fei sneered, and then with a snap of his fingers, a figure was dragged out of the water. The nine-tailed mantis shrimp dragged Zhang Wen, who was grunting, to Han Fei as if presenting a treasure. Little thief, let go of my young master. Zhang Wen's servants roared at this moment. They knew that they couldn't beat Han Fei, so they could only ask for Zhang Wen. Han Fei landed lightly on the water and stepped on Zhang Wen's face. What? What did you just say? I didn't hear it clearly. Say it again. Chapter 530. Han Fei's foot stepped on Zhang Wen's face, grinding and grinding. Who asked you to pretend? Who asked you to be carefree? Who asked you to smile? Have you seen us before? Why are you here? Are you out of your mind? As the son of the Zhang family, he had never been insulted like this before. Originally, Zhang Wen thought that he was a man who would not be affected by honor or disgrace. However, all his confidence and pride were completely shattered by Han Fei's foot. No, to be precise, he was stomped into pieces. Puff! Zhang Wen's face turned red. With so many people watching, he felt that his dignity had been greatly insulted, and his heart was collapsing. He immediately vomited a mouthful of blood. Young master! Asshole, let go of my young master! Han Fei, if you dare to do it, you will definitely die. Xia Shaochan also came over, kicked Zhang Wen twice, and then looked at the servants of the Zhang family. What will happen if the immortal seal is broken? Hearing this, Zhang Wen was horrified. What do you mean? Do you really want to kill me? On the other side, Luo Xiaobai walked out of the pollen mist. Yi Baiyu was wrapped like a dumpling and was sleeping soundly. Han Fei asked in surprise, why is he asleep? Luo Xiaobai said lightly, the pollen has a hypnotizing effect. Yi Baiyu had no servants following him, so no one cared about him at this moment. At this moment, he was unconscious, so it was useless to step on him. Li Hai and Li Baizhou's faces turned blue and red. They controlled the fishing boat to fly in the sky, looking at Zhang Wen who was stepped on by Han Fei and looking at each other. When Sun Mu and Mo Fian came back and saw this scene, their hearts suddenly sank. As for Yang Diyu and Chen Aochen, they were not stupid, so they had already slipped away. They were not looking for a fight with Tang Gu, but for Han Fei. Now that Zhang Wen and Yi Baiyu were kneeling, everyone had stopped fighting. If they still rushed up stupidly, they would be crazy. Tang Gu and Han Fei exchanged a glance and then said to each other via voice transmission, it doesn't matter if the immortal seal is broken the first time. It won't trigger the hammer strike in their bodies, but you must not kill them the second time. Han Fei's face remained unchanged. Is the immortal seal easy to break? It's very difficult. However, with the strength of the 5 of you, if each of you hit him once, using the fist technique you used just now, you will definitely be able to break it. Han Fei was surprised. So difficult. When he went back, he would ask Old Bai and the others for help to get an immortal seal in his body. This was practically a godly life-saving talisman. Han Fei pushed Zhang Wen's body. Hey hey hey! What are you doing? Don't touch my young master. Bastard, don't you dare touch my young master. The Zhang clan's servant was horrified. There were so many people watching. Zhang Wen roared, Han Fei, you. Don't touch my chest. Pa. Han Fei cursed, you want me to slap you? I touched your chest. Don't tarnish my dignity. I'm just touching your sea-swallowing seashell. Zhang Wen was horrified. I'll give it to you, I'll take it myself. The 7 great sects were all dumbfounded by this scene. On the Heavenly Sword sect's side, the people who were robbed by Han Fei were full of shame and indignation. Especially the little girl, her face was completely red. On the Jade Fairy Palace's side, Gong Yuehan opened her mouth slightly and her eyes widened. This. He was so domineering just a moment ago. How did he become like this all of a sudden? There was something wrong with this scene. After taking the sea-swallowing seashell, Han Fei looked at the Zhang clan's servants and said, and your sea-swallowing seashell. Of course, those servants didn't dare to neglect. Their young master had already used the immortal seal. How dare they not give it to him? 5 or 6 sea-swallowing seashells were thrown over and caught by the vines. The Zhang clan servant shouted, Han Fei, let go of my young master. Han Fei grinned. Do you think this is over? Zhang Wen said angrily, Han Fei, what else do you want? The Zhang clan's servant said, Han Fei, we have given you our sea-swallowing seashells. Don't be ungrateful. Han Fei sneered. Are you threatening me? Han Fei stomped his feet. Threats are the last thing I'm afraid of now. Give me 100,000 caddies of spiritual spring to redeem him. If you don't have spiritual spring, give me 10,000 spiritual fruits. Wow! On the spot, many people were shocked by Han Fei's words. Is he crazy for spiritual spring and spiritual fruits? Zhang Xuanyu and the others couldn't help but click their tongues. Zhang Xuanyu said to Han Fei via voice transmission, Fei, can they afford it? Han Fei responded, you underestimate the financial resources of the children of the big clans. 10,000 spiritual fruits are just a drop in the bucket for them. On the dragon boat, if converted into sea-swallowing seashells, 10,000 spiritual fruits are only about 15 million mid-quality pearls. Do you think they can't afford it? Lu Renquang was shocked. Is it so cheap? Then why don't they ask for more? Han Fei was helpless. I also want more, but there must be so many spiritual fruits on the dragon boat. Although the spiritual fruit was relatively cheap, it was still relative. Because no one could eat spiritual fruits all the time, otherwise their price would inevitably rise 10 times or even 100 times. Although the dragon boat was large, there were only so many spiritual fruit trading shops. Even if they wanted to buy from ordinary people, it would take time to raise funds. Zhang Wen's eyes almost popped out. Han Fei, don't push your luck. Han Fei continued to grind. Push my luck. From the moment you joined the battle, you should have been prepared to be robbed by me. By the way, leave the ghost speed divine boat to me. The servants of the Zhang family all had surging spiritual energy on their bodies and were so angry that they gnashed their teeth. Han Fei had caught a fat fish and wouldn't let it go. With a thought from Han Fei, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp swam towards the ghost speed divine boat. Under the gaze of everyone, it pulled the ghost speed divine boat back. Han Fei grinned. The dragon boat is not far from here, right? I'll give you 1 day to gather enough spiritual fruits or spiritual spring. Then come to me to redeem them. Well, it should be easy for you to find out where the wind god boat is. Now, get out of here. With that, Han Fei carried Zhang Wen with one hand and jumped onto the wind god boat. The next moment, he drove the boat into the sky and disappeared into the sky. This time, no one dared to stop him. After all, he had already fought them. 2 of the 8 disciples from the big clans were killed, and they had even been captured. It was even more impossible for the disciples of the big clans to take action. It just so happened that the disciples of the big clans had also been humiliated, and the battle was over in only 3 minutes. Suddenly, the humiliation they had suffered before seemed to be nothing. After all, the disciples of the big clans were the scapegoats. Mu Ling said softly, all members of the Heavenly Sword sect, disperse. Go to the level 3 fishery to practice on your own. No groups of 3 or 5 are allowed. Starting from now, the time is 3 months. This time, the 7 major sects really realized the strength of the wild heavenly talents and knew that no matter how beautiful the flowers in the greenhouse were, they were still extremely fragile. Only through experience could they grow up. On the side of the Jade Fairy Palace, Gong Yuan said coldly, all members of the Jade Fairy Palace, disperse to practice for 3 months. All members of the Mountain Sea Pavilion, all members of the Death Door sect, all members of the Grand Void Academy, the battle of the Thug Academy was over. The result was obvious. It ended with the defeat of the 7 major sects and the disciples of the big clans in the Thousand Star City. This battle gave everyone a great stimulation. In the past, they had always thought that they were the heavenly talents of the Thousand Star City. Now that they were in the level 3 fishery, any one of them would be invincible. They had never thought that one day, 5 people would appear and turn them upside down. Among them, Han Fei was the leader. This guy vividly demonstrated the strength, domineering, and invincibility of a wild heavenly talent. Many people lost, but it ignited their ambitions. Many people lost their sea-swallowing seashells, but it inspired their fighting spirit. It was also on this day that they learned what treachery, cunning, and teamwork were. Anyway, Han Fei and the others didn't know the real meaning of this battle at all. For them, this was a victory in a battle of wits and courage, and the ending was perfect. Somewhere on the sea outside the sea grassland, Lu Rinquang was searching for Yi Baiyu, who was sleeping soundly. After searching for a long time, he finally took out his sea-swallowing seashells and smiled. Lu Rinquang said happily, it's so cool to have a ghost speed divine boat. Now we have 2 wind god boats and 2 ghost speed divine boats. Han Fei sighed. Unfortunately, there is still one more. Let's go grab it again in a few days. I don't like that Mo Fian, so I'm going to grab her. It doesn't matter who we grab. Anyway, I know we are very rich now. This is the best day I've ever had in the level 3 fishery. If we go back in the future, we will have a lot to boast about. Zhang Wen and Yi Baiyu were now tied up by the spirit forbidden net, one silent, and the other sleeping soundly. Han Fei kicked Yi Baiyu, who was sleeping soundly, and said, hey! Don't pretend. Get up. Yi Baiyu was still sleeping, and there was even a slight snore coming out. Yi Baiyu was still dumbfounded. How did I suddenly get knocked down? My speed is unparalleled. Who is that manipulator? Why is that family with them? But how could he wake up at this moment? It's not like I didn't see Zhang Wen being crushed by Han Fei. At this moment, Zhang Wen's eyes were listless, staring at the sky dully. He almost wanted to die. Yi Baiyu felt that he could sleep until tomorrow, until his servants came with spiritual spring and spiritual fruits to exchange for him. At this moment, Han Fei proposed, what should we do if we can't wake him up? Xia Shaochan smiled and said, easy. Put him in the pot and cook him. Zhang Xuanyu chuckled and said, we can find an insect nest and throw him in. Lu Rinquang's mouth trembled. I think we can take off his shoes and tickle him, huh? The group of people looked at Lu Rinquang in disgust. Why is he so funny? Every time Xia Shaochan and the others made a suggestion, Yi Baiyu couldn't help but shiver slightly. Are these people all fucking devils? Only these few villains could think of such a deranged way of tormenting people, right? Han Fei said, I think we can try them all for a day. Let's cook him first. Anyway, he shouldn't die. However, if you cook it until it's bright red and ticklish, it should have a special taste. Zhang Xuanyu nodded. Yes, then throw him into the insect nest. Yi Baiyu immediately opened his eyes and said loudly, no, I'm awake. I'm already awake. Yi Baiyu was speechless at Zhang Xuanyu. In any case, they were both handsome men. How could a handsome man make things difficult for another handsome man? How could you do such a thing? Do you have a soft spot for insect nests? Han Fei looked at Yi Baiyu with a faint smile and said, Yo. You're not going to sleep. Yi Baiyu's face changed. What do you want to do? My servants will definitely get the news and come with spiritual spring and spiritual fruits tomorrow. Zhang Xuanyu chuckled. That's not the point. Give it to me. Lu Renkuang also smiled. Yes, take it out as soon as possible. Don't hurt our friendship. Xia Shaochan nodded. Yes, hand it over now, and we will never touch you. Han Fei agreed. After all, we are old acquaintances. Hand it over, and we will never embarrass you. Luo Xiaobai looked at Yi Baiyu sympathetically, feeling that it was almost impossible for this guy to not be skinned after falling into the hands of these guys. Yi Baiyu looked dumbfounded. What? What should I take? Han Fei cursed. Nonsense, it was a speed-type combat skill at that time. If you can't take out a heaven-level, divine-quality speed-type combat skill, believe it or not, I will throw you into the frying pan right now. Xia Shaochan held the dagger and looked at Yi Baiyu with burning eyes. Yes, chop off his feet first, and then throw him into the frying pan. Zhang Xuanyu clenched his fists. Hand it over, and I'll spare you some physical pain. In the battle just now, if it weren't for Luo Xiaobai's weird attack, she would never have been able to defeat Yi Baiyu. His speed was so fast that even if Xia Shaochan flashed to Yi Baiyu's face, she couldn't cut him. It could be seen how fast Yi Baiyu's speed was. Yi Baiyu said with a sad face, I didn't. My ancestral bloodline is not a combat skill. Han Fei looked at Luo Xiaobai. Luo Xiaobai calmly analyzed, perhaps it is true that you have a bloodline in your body, but bloodline can only determine talent and advantages. You can be twice or twice faster than others, but you can never be 10 or 8 times faster than others. Besides, since your family is famous for speed, it is impossible to rely solely on bloodline. As long as your family is full of normal people, the advantages of bloodline will be magnified infinitely, so that the speed of your clansmen will become faster and faster. After a little analysis, Luo Xiaobai finally came to a conclusion. So, you must learn various speed-type combat skills from childhood, which is why you are fast but your combat power is weaker than others. Han Fei slapped Yi Baiyu's head. Listen, this analysis is so insightful. So, don't try to deceive us with demon level, heaven level, low-quality speed-type combat skills. Today, if you can't take out 2 heaven level, divine quality speed-type combat skills, or a speed-type combat skill beyond the heaven level, you will be thrown into the frying pan. Yi Baiyu said angrily, how can there be a divine quality combat skill? That kind of combat skill doesn't exist at all. Yes, I admit that I have practiced speed-type combat skills, but I only have 1 heaven level, high-quality one. Coupled with my own bloodline, my speed is naturally very fast. Han Fei took out a large pot and poured a large barrel of fish oil into it. Han Fei said, Xia Shaochan, give me some fire. Hula. The flames were burning, and Yi Baiyu's eyelids twitched. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, gulp, Yi Baiyu swallowed. What a bunch of fucking lunatics. But now that he was the meat on the chopping block, he had to bow his head. Okay, I'll give you. 2 heaven level, high quality speed type combat skills. Believe me, this is definitely the most I can take out. A divine quality combat skill doesn't exist at all. If I really have a combat skill above the heaven level, who do you think can stop me? At this moment, Luo Xiaobai said again, no, you do. Just like Sun Mu has the immortal slaying formation, Mo Fian has the water dragon chant, and the Chao family has the Chao family's domineering fist. Your Yi family is one of the big families in the 1,000-star city, so you must have more than 2 heaven level, high-quality speed-type combat skills. You must have at least 1 secret technique. That's what we want. Yi Baiyu immediately said angrily, impossible, Luo Xiaobai, right? Can you hand over your grand spirit summoning art? Do you think I don't know which family you are from? Except for that family in the Thousand-Star City, there can't be a second family that can use the Grand Spirit summoning art. Han Fei and the others were slightly taken aback. Did this mean that Yi Baiyu seemed to know Luo Xiaobai's family? Xia Shaochan wondered, which family? Luo Xiaobai said, I'll tell you the rest. My family is a divine manipulator family, living in the Thousand-Star City. Luo Xiaobai didn't intend to hide it at all. She seemed to feel that at this point, she had already met people from the Thousand-Star City, so there was no need to hide her identity anymore. Anyway, everyone would know it sooner or later. Suddenly, Han Fei thought of something and said, well, this unique technique of your family is actually not that big of a deal. We can give it up, but you can hand over your star teleportation technique. Impossible. Smack. Han Fei slapped Yi Baiyu's head and said angrily, you can't do this, you can't do that. This is already our bottom line. Either you hand over your family's ultimate technique, or you hand over your revolving star transposition technique. Otherwise, believe it or not, I will really kill you. Everyone looked at Han Fei. Xia Shaochan asked, what is the star teleportation technique? Zhang Xuanyu asked, have you even found out its name? Lu Renkuang nodded. It sounds very powerful. Han Fei said, it's a kind of escape secret technique that even the six-gate formation can't trap. Wow, Zhang Xuanyu and the others all took a breath. Even the six-gate formation can't trap it? Is there such a combat skill? Zhang Xuanyu's eyes glowed. Yes, 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 this is a must. Lu Renkuang smiled and said, yes, yes. Xia Xiaochan's eyes flickered. In this case, the star teleportation technique might be the least helpful to her. However, it could also make up for the shortcomings of Flash. After all, she couldn't flash out of the six-gate formation. Han Fei didn't intend to ask for Yi Baiyu's trump card from the very beginning. It was like asking Sun Mu to hand over the Immortal's slaying formation. Of course, Sun Mu wouldn't hand it over. Yi Baiyu said, do you think the star teleportation technique is not a unique technique of our Yi family? To tell you the truth, these two are the top techniques of our Yi family. You can ask for a heaven-level combat skill, but it's impossible for you to ask for the star teleportation technique. Just like Zhang Wen's heavenly jewel body protecting technique, that is a secret. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Wen, who had been in a daze, kicked Yi Baiyu. Zhang Wen said angrily, don't drag me into this. What heavenly jewel body protecting technique? I don't know. Yi Baiyu said boldly, you can kill me, but you can't get these two secret techniques of my family. Smack, Han Fei slapped Yi Baiyu's head. Who asked you to be so arrogant? How dare you be so arrogant? Do you think I don't dare to kill you? Even if I can't kill you, I can break your immortal seal. Believe it or not. At this moment, Luo Xiaobai said via voice transmission, if it is really a secret technique of our family, I'm afraid we really can't get it. Once this secret technique is leaked out, I'm afraid the consequences will be very serious. Han Fei was helpless. He thought he had got a treasure, but it turned out that he couldn't get what he really wanted. Han Fei was immediately discouraged. Okay, each of you will give me 2 heaven-level high-quality combat skills. This is the bottom line. If you can't give me 2, humph. I will definitely break your immortal seal. Zhang Wen said angrily, what does it have to do with me? Han Fei said, shut up. Just give me what I want. In the end, Yi Baiyu and Zhang Wen compromised. The two of them gave him 4 heaven-level high-quality combat skills. Although the harvest this time was not so good, it was definitely a huge one. The 2 combat skills given by Yi Baiyu were both speed-type combat skills, namely the flying fish technique and the sea racing art. The 2 combat skills given by Zhang Wen, one was a defensive combat skill, and the other was an armorist combat skill, namely the spiritual pearl barrier and the 4 extremities rushing thunder knife. Among them, the armorist combat skill naturally belonged to Lu Renkuang, and others couldn't use it. As for the spiritual pearl barrier, Han Fei looked at it for a while. In fact, it was a defensive method, but it had a flaw, that is, it inevitably sacrificed some speed and attack power when defending, so it was not suitable for fast-running battles. Han Fei directly gave them to Zhang Xuanyu and Luo Xiaobai. The two of them didn't rush around like him in battle, so they were the most suitable. On the other hand, the flying fish technique and the sea racing technique were what everyone lacked. Heaven-level high-quality combat skills might be easy to find, but heaven-level high-quality speed-type combat skills were very rare. In his mind, the information of the two combat skills emerged. Flying fish technique, heaven-level, high-quality, remark, there are flying fish in the deep sea, which can swim as fast as flying. It has both the characteristics of speed and footwork. When swimming, it can absorb the spiritual energy in the seawater, so that the user doesn't need to consume extra spiritual energy. When practiced to the highest level, it will be like a mystic light in the sea, changing unpredictably when swimming. Disadvantage, relatively weak in linear speed. Deduced art, unknown deduction cost, 5000000. Remark, Fusible. Han Fei found that the flying fish technique was actually a bit similar to the shadow swimming art. Neither of them pursued extreme speed, but both footwork and speed. However, what did the phrase, can be fused, mean? Han Fei quickly turned to the next one. Sea racing art, heaven level, high quality, remark, using the human body as the array, when swimming, when the array is activated, it can absorb the spiritual energy in the seawater without consuming extra spiritual energy. When practiced to the highest level, it can ignore the current and turn into a mystic light in the water. Disadvantage, without the assistance of footwork, it is extremely difficult to change the movement technique instantly. Deduced art, unknown deduction cost, 5000000. Remark, Fusible. This book was different from the flying fish art. This set of combat skills pursued extreme speed, so in theory, it would be faster. But it seemed that he could only walk in a straight line, which was a big problem. It was not that this kind of combat skill that pursued extreme speed was not good, but that he couldn't turn immediately, so when he encountered an obstacle, he couldn't react immediately and might directly crash into it. However, it might not necessarily be a problem. After all, he said that he would turn into a ray of light when he swam to the extreme. Would that be another experience? Han Fei wasn't sure, but this sea racing art seemed to be fusible too. This made Han Fei's heart skip a beat. Could combat skills also be fused? Immediately, he looked at his shadow swimming art, but the word fusible didn't appear in it. This made Han Fei's heart skip a beat, and he quickly looked at other combat skills. But Han Fei was slightly disappointed after looking at it. He found that only these two speed-type combat skills of the same level had the remark fusible. However, Han Fei was also surprised. Was it because they were the same type of combat skills? So, could they be fused with each other? His other combat skills were strange, such as sacrificing punch, invincible skill, majestic mystic spell, thousand faces skill, blade scripture, and war soul archery technique, which were not in the same category. Perhaps this was the fundamental reason why they could not be combined. Han Fei seemed to have discovered a new continent. If he deduced the shadow swimming art to the heaven level, high quality, would it also be fusible? If the three combat skills were fused, would a heaven level, divine quality speed type combat skill be born? Han Fei even wondered if it would exceed the heaven level, divine quality category. Of course, Han Fei couldn't test it at this moment. On the other side, Lu Renquang was in a very good mood after getting a heaven-level, high-quality combat skill. At this moment, he was cooking hot pot. Xia Shaochan was holding a fishing rod and fishing for side dishes in the sea. Although some small fish and shrimp were very low-level, they tasted good. Zhang Xuanyu was studying the spiritual bead amulet with a serious look. Luo Xiaobai also seemed to be in a good mood. Xia Shaochan was fishing, and she was sitting next to her, her feet hanging on the bow of the boat. Colorful vines and petals floated all over the sea under her feet. She seemed to be studying her strength. As for the hexagon starfish, it was lying on the big pot at this moment. It didn't feel hot at all. From time to time, its tentacles took out a small shrimp or a small conch from the pot and stuffed it into its mouth. The hexagon starfish seemed to be used to Han Fei and the others and was not worried at all that someone would catch it as a contractual spiritual beast. Or, at some point, the hexagon starfish had regarded itself as a human. After a moment, 5 people and 1 starfish surrounded the hot pot. When Xia Shaochan saw the hexagon starfish stretching out its tentacles to grab the pot, she immediately slapped it back. Xia Shaochan said, "Big starfish, you can't catch it without washing your hands." The hexagon starfish said aggrievedly, "My hands are clean." Zhang Xuanyu said, "Starfish don't have hands." Han Fei rolled up a mass of clean water and wrapped the hexagon starfish in a circle. After a slight shake, he said, "Okay, it's clean." Before he started to eat, Luo Xiaobai suddenly said, "Senior Hexagon, set a soundproof array for those 2 people." For such a trivial matter, the hexagon starfish just casually waved its tentacles. Immediately, Yi Baiyu and Zhang Wen couldn't hear anything and could only see the 5 of them eating hot pot around the big pot. Lu Renquang had already started to eat. Luo Xiaobai picked up a small shrimp and said, "In the 1,000-star city, there are actually many families, far more than the ones we saw. However, some families rise, some families decline, some families hide, and some families are indifferent. Our family is a relatively special one among them." As soon as Luo Xiaobai talked about her family background, everyone immediately pricked up their ears. Luo Xiaobai said lightly, "I know you have a lot of questions, but you should have guessed that I am from the 1,000-star city." Xia Shaochan nodded. "Yes. What's wrong with coming from the 1,000-star city?" Zhang Xuanyu came from another town. Zhang Xuanyu scoffed. "Don't talk nonsense. Is a town the same as a city?" Luo Xiaobai said, "Every rising family in the 1,000-star city will have its own characteristics. For example, one is fast and the other has strong defense. And our Luo family once had a divine manipulator." Divine manipulator? Han Fei and the others had just heard about the divine manipulator family. At this moment, when Luo Xiaobai took the initiative to talk about it, he asked, "What is a divine manipulator?" Luo Xiaobai tilted her head and thought for 2 seconds. In fact, it is a manipulator, but his ability to manipulate spiritual plants is beyond the scope of normal manipulators. For example? Luo Xiaobai smiled faintly. For example, where there are spiritual plants, they can be immortal. For example, they can borrow lives from spiritual plants. For example, they can communicate with any spiritual plant at any time. Of course, divine manipulators seem to be able to summon any kind of spiritual plant they want. Wow! Lu Renquang, whose mouth was dripping with oil, was surprised. Doesn't that mean they are invincible? Luo Xiaobai shook her head. Not really. When they grow to the extreme, they will have new insights. Just like any cultivator, when their strength reaches a certain level, they will walk their own path. Their own path. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Have you found that, as far as we know, it seems that heaven-level combat skills are the limit of our understanding? Han Fei nodded. Yes, heaven-level combat skills are already very rare. Luo Xiaobai glanced at Yi Baiyu and Zhang Wen, and then continued, because after the heaven level, cultivators need to seek their own breakthroughs and find their own path. As for how to find it, I don't know, but these families can rise because someone in their family has reached an incredible level in a certain aspect. Therefore, they have the status they have today because they have been passed down from generation to generation. Han Fei suddenly asked, "What is the Grand Spirit summoning art?" Luo Xiaobai pondered for a moment. "It is to summon the creatures I want to summon. The reason why I was able to trap Yi Baiyu was that I summoned a spiritual plant called the 1,000 Transformation Demonic Flower. Their pollen has a strong hypnotic and hallucinogenic power, which can quickly make people lose their combat power until they fall into a coma." Xia Shaochan was shocked. "Then won't you become a divine manipulator in the future?" "Ha! How can it be so simple?" Luo Xiaobai smiled and said, I didn't discover that I could use the grand spirit summoning art until I became a peak-level dangling fisher. Besides, I can only use it in the simplest way. I still need to explore it. While eating, everyone fell into deep thought. It was the first time that they had met the disciples of the big clans, so they had a lot of thoughts in their minds. In fact, these people were very powerful. The reason why they could win was mainly because of Han Fei. The majestic mystic spell was a rare treasure, but it was thrown out casually by Han Fei. This was the reason why this team could be strong. However, did they always rely on the majestic mystic spell? For some reason, they unanimously wanted to put the majestic mystic spell aside for the time being. After all, it was an external force. Luo Xiaobai had inspired them to walk their own path. Perhaps this was the key. Chapter 531. The aroma of the hot pot lingered in the cabin for a long time. The aroma fell into the noses of Zhang Wen and Yi Baiyu, making the two sniff. Han Fei glanced at the two of them. What? Do you want to eat it? Give me something to exchange for it. Zhang Wen seemed to have recovered from the shame and indignation, watching Han Fei and the others set up a barbecue in the cabin again. The sizzling sound of the barbecue and the tempting garlic and spicy smell made him say, "I've given you everything. There will be spiritual spring and spiritual fruits tomorrow. What else do you want?" Zhang Xuanyu grabbed a garlic prawn and took a bite. We don't refuse good things. If others want to eat it, I won't give them a chance. Yi Baiyu said, that's because they are poor. Zhang Xuanyu praised, you're quite smart. You've recognized the nature of things. Han Fei said with a smile, in fact, we are not the kind of people who are greedy for small profits. Let's talk about the dragon boat. Tell me where this dragon boat came from and who is controlling it. With that, Han Fei grabbed 2 large handfuls of garlic prawns and walked to the two of them. Are my garlic prawns not delicious? Help us popularize the knowledge of dragon boats. Eat whatever is delicious. Ordinary people will never have such treatment. With that said, Han Fei stuffed a skewer of garlic prawns to each of them. Yi Baiyu grabbed it and immediately took a bite. As soon as he took a bite, his eyes lit up. He had never eaten such delicious food in his life. When he was in the 1,000-star city, although he didn't have to worry about food and clothing, and there were countless delicious food, they were all original food. Who could have expected that as soon as it touched Han Fei's hand, the taste soared to the sky? It didn't taste like human food at all. Zhang Wen also took a bite. He felt that he had given up on himself and regretted more than once. If he had known that Han Fei and the others were so reckless, he would never have gone to kill Han Fei with Sun Mu and the others. In the end, when a mouthful of spicy lobster meat entered his stomach, he felt all his worries vanish in an instant. The two of them wolfed down the garlic prawns and finished them in a short while. After he finished eating, he found that Han Fei, Xia Shaochan, and the others were looking at him with a smile. Han Fei grabbed another 7 or 8 garlic prawns, 2 spicy crab feet, and 2 plates of garlic clams. What do you think? There's actually no conflict between us. As long as you don't hunt us down, we can still be good friends, right? Do you want more? At this moment, the hexagon starfish was clinging to the barbecue rack. Of course, it didn't want to barbecue itself, but it also liked barbecue. At this moment, the hexagon starfish's 6 big eyes were rolling. It hadn't seen Han Fei so amiable for a long time. It was willing to bet that Han Fei was up to no good. Yi Baiyu stretched out his hand and said, if you want to know about the dragon boats, you can ask Zhang Wen. He knows more about them than I do. Because his family has a share of the dragon boat. Fuck, the others looked at each other in bewilderment. What the hell? Zhang Wenjia still has a share on the dragon boat? However, Zhang Wen kicked Yi Baiyu, gritted his teeth, and said, Yi, Bai, you. Han Fei quickly stuffed all the things in his hand to Yi Baiyu, and then immediately looked at Zhang Wen and said, look, this is what a smart person should do. Look at you. Alas. Brother, I don't mean to criticize you, but why are you so ignorant? With that said, Han Fei grabbed a pile of barbecue from the barbecue rack and said, "Tell me if there is delicious food. If you don't tell me, I can beat you until you tell me." Lu Renkuang added, "If it were me, I'd just eat first and think about it later." In this world, only food can't be wasted. Zhang Wen now knew that Han Fei and the others didn't dare to kill him, but why did they ask about the dragon boats? He couldn't figure it out. Each dragon boat had hundreds of thousands of people, including countless peak-level dangling fishers and hanging fishers. Did these people dare to plot against the dragon boats? Definitely not. Zhang Wen admitted that they were very strong, but they were not strong enough to do whatever they wanted on the dragon boats. Even if they could disguise themselves and sneak onto the dragon boats, once they did anything out of line, they would inevitably be targeted immediately. If it were so easy to survive on the dragon boats, how could they survive in the level 3 fishery for so long? Thinking about this, Zhang Wen took the barbecue and then said, "It's useless to tell you. This is not a secret in the Thousand Star City. The dragon boats are super big boats jointly built by the major families and sects in the Thousand Star City. The Thousand Star City only cultivates strong people, and almost no one goes to the level 1 or level 2 fishery to gain experience, so the dragon boat resources in the level 3 fishery have become a major source of income for the Thousand Star City, accounting for more than 30% of the entire city's income." Han Fei's first reaction was, 30%? Since the people of the Thousand Star City don't work, where does the remaining 70% of income come from? Zhang Xuanyu grinned. "They are just enjoying the fruits of others' labor." Zhang Wen shook his head. "Enjoy the fruits of others' labor? You are not in the Thousand Star City, so you don't know the meaning of its existence. The people in the villages and towns just practice, fish, and harvest resources in the level 1, 2, and 3 fisheries. The danger you can understand is naturally only the fishery itself. But the Thousand Star City is not. There are villages and towns in the Thousand Star City. Otherwise, do you think you can live so peacefully every day?" "What do you mean?" Zhang Wen explained, "The unknown place. The remaining source of income of the Thousand Star City mostly comes from the unknown place, which accounts for at least 50% of the economic source. The remaining point is business and trade, which you don't understand." Han Fei and the others couldn't help looking at each other. The level 3 fishery and 100 dragon boats only accounted for 30% of the national economy of the Thousand Star City. Of course, Han Fei knew how much money a dragon boat would make every day. Just the most basic accommodation cost, if not 100 million, was at least 50 million. Not to mention the scale of the entire trading market of the dragon boats. That was too huge. Even if the trading market was not included, excluding the daily depreciation and other miscellaneous expenses of the dragon boats, 100 million yuan a day would be a net profit of 10 billion yuan, so 100 dragon boats would be 10 billion yuan. That only accounted for 30%. Perhaps the dragon boats were expensive to build, but they had been running for hundreds of years, so it was impossible to calculate the cost at all. Han Fei took a slight breath. "You mean the dragon boats are controlled by the big clans and sects?" Zhang Wen shook his head. "Not completely, just a part of it. The Thousand Star City has a population of hundreds of millions. If it is only controlled by the big clans and sects, what do ordinary people eat? In general, the sects account for about 30%, the big clans account for 20%, and the remaining 50% is used to subsidize the ordinary people in the Thousand Star City." Han Fei was stunned. "So, as long as you are in the Thousand Star City, even ordinary people can receive a monthly relief, is that what you mean?" "Relief?" Zhang Wen nodded. "This is a novel idea, but it's not relief, because most of the money is earned by those ordinary people. The Thousand Star City also has a special agency to do statistics, and according to the contribution of each household to the Thousand Star City, that relief will be distributed. The big clans account for 20%. How many big clans are there in the Thousand Star City?" Zhang Wen thought for a while. "Who knows? There was a rise and a fall, but usually, only the 10 strongest clans would be crowned with the title of Great Clan. As for the rest of the families that have fallen out of the top 10, there are hundreds of them. So many. Xia Xiaochan looked at Luo Xiaobai, who frowned slightly. I'm not sure about this. I don't go out very much. But the top 10 big families control the economy. Han Fei thought for a moment and suddenly asked, since the dragon boats are so important, why are there only hanging fishers guarding the dragon boats? Zhang Wen was speechless. Aren't hanging fishers enough? Those above hanging fishers are not allowed to enter the level 3 fishery under many restrictions. There are occasional exceptions, but they can't do anything. The 1,000-star city would only send hidden fishers to guard the dragon boats. Strong masters above hidden fishers were enough to threaten the safety of all the dragon boats. Would you let a strong master of that level enter the level 3 fishery? Han Fei's first thought was, of course not. No matter how strong the dragon boats were, they were just huge ordinary boats. In terms of materials alone, they were absolutely no match for the Wind God boat or the Ghost Speed Divine boat. Even a hanging fisher could wreak havoc on a dragon boat, let alone a powerhouse above the hidden fisher level. Han Fei asked, how are the hanging fishers and hidden fishers selected? Hearing Han Fei's question, Zhang Wen fell silent and swallowed the food. Luo Xiaobai suddenly said, it should be assigned by the big families and sects of the 1,000-star city. Zhang Wen looked up at Luo Xiaobai. You have no chance. The hanging fishers assigned here are at least peak level, and ordinary hanging fishers will not be sent here. The same is true for hidden fishers. At that level, they are already half a step away from becoming law enforcers. How can mere dangling fishers defeat them? The next day, when the Wind God boat appeared more than 3,000 kilometers away from the dragon boats, the servants of the Zhang family and the Yi family came. At this moment, nearly 20 fishing boats of the two families landed opposite Han Fei. These people were not here to fight, but to prevent their young master from being eaten by Han Fei and the others. With the status of these two families, a mere 10,000 spiritual fruits or 100,000 caddies of spiritual spring would not hurt them at all. It was just that for a period of time, the prices of spiritual fruits and spiritual spring would inevitably soar. This was a market economy problem, which had nothing to do with Han Fei. After a while, Han Fei got the spiritual fruits and spiritual spring as he wished, and shouted to Zhang Wen and Yi Baiyu on the bow of the opposite boat, remember, don't do stupid things next time. If you dare to come again, if I catch you again, today's price will be 10 times higher. Think about it carefully. Zhang Wen snorted and left with his servants. This time, he had lost all his face. At the same time, he also realized his weakness. Revenge must be taken, but it was tantamount to dreaming to take revenge now. For the first time, he desperately wanted to improve himself. Ha! I feel something is wrong. Young master, what's wrong with you? Zhang Wen rubbed his belly, full of doubts. Nothing. Yi Baiyu only felt that this time he was completely careless. He didn't expect that Luo Xiaobai turned out to be from a divine manipulator family. Otherwise, he wouldn't even participate in the battle. Gulp. Gulp. After letting these two people go, Han Fei and the others immediately controlled the Wind God boat and ran away. Less than 10 minutes after Han Fei and the others left, Zhang Wen and Yi Baiyu's faces changed drastically. Zhang Wen's whole face turned red. Damn it, when did he poison us? Yi Baiyu gritted his teeth and clutched his stomach. Han Fei, damn you, Han Fei ran away quickly and was laughing. Lu Rinquang asked, how much poison did you put? Han Fei grinned. 1 drop per person. If I put too much, I will be exposed. However, 1 drop is enough for them. Zhang Xuanyu put his arm around Han Fei's shoulder. Amazing, amazing, is this Poison King really so powerful? Han Fei nodded. Of course. Fortunately, we escaped quickly. Otherwise, I guess they would have come again. Although it seemed that no one came to provoke him now. If the other party was well prepared, it was hard to say whether they could win again by luck. This time, the reason why they could win was not because of Han Fei, but because those people underestimated Han Fei's teammates too much. Whether it was Lu Renquang's sky-swallowing technique or Zhang Xuanyu's triple original body, they were beyond everyone's expectations. As for Luo Xiaobai, not to mention others, even Han Fei and the others were stunned. Somewhere on the sea 10,000 miles away from the dragon boat, Han Fei and the others changed to a more normal fishing boat. In the cabin, the 5 of them sat cross-legged together. A hill of sea-swallowing seashells was piled on the ground. The 5 of them stared at each other, not knowing what to do with these sea-swallowing seashells. Lu Renquang asked stupidly, "How much money is here?" Han Fei thought for a long time. "I don't know. Anyway, it seems that we can't spend it all." Originally, Han Fei still had some idea about the sea-swallowing seashells he had. Even if he robbed Zhang Wen, Yi Baiyu, and the 6 sect sea-swallowing seashells, he could still make it. However, after all, Han Fei had been away for more than 2 months. During this period, Xia Shaochan and the others hadn't been idle. When they were in the steps into the sea, he gave her 51 treasure maps, which had basically been explored. Most of them were actually empty, and only less than 20 of them had been found, but the harvest was not small. Besides, Xia Shaochan and the others had robbed hundreds of sea-swallowing seashells one after another, so they had too much money now. Zhang Xuanyu said, "All I can think of is to change my equipment. Then, keep some for later use. As for the rest, I don't know what to do." Xia Shaochan was also confused. Before, she had no money to spend, but now she had money but didn't know how to spend it. Luo Xiaobai analyzed with difficulty. First of all, as Zhang Xuanyu said, it's best to change a few sets of weapons and armor first. It's best if they are ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Han Fei nodded. "Let me do this. How many sets can I make for you?" Lu Renquang asked weakly. "About 10 sets. Bam! Han Fei kicked him. "Do you want so much to eat?" Lu Renquang scratched his belly. "Otherwise, it'll be a waste if I can't use it." Luo Xiaobai shook her head. "That's not necessary. 2 sets per person is enough. After all, we can't completely rely on weapons and armor. Otherwise, how can we get the experience we deserve? Secondly, I think we can cultivate in seclusion for a while. Before, there weren't so many resources for us to cultivate, but now." Xia Shaochan asked, "Do you want to cultivate while looking for the specter?" Luo Xiaobai shook her head. "No, the things in the seaborne prairie are far from over. Many people are still venturing into the seaborne prairie. Especially after many people think that I have obtained a sea-quelling bizarre treasure, more people will think that there are still big secrets in the seaborne prairie." Han Fei asked, "Then are there any more?" Luo Xiaobai shrugged. "There should be, but it's definitely not a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. And ordinary treasures." Luo Xiaobai pointed at the hill-like sea-swallowing seashells and thought to herself, "Isn't this enough?" There had never been a day when everyone felt that they would become so rich. Han Fei sighed. "Okay. Then let's cultivate for a while and wait for the specter to appear." Han Fei was very sure that the specter would definitely appear. 2 more dragon boats had gathered in the seaborne prairie, and a 3rd or even a 4th might come soon. Whether or not there were treasures in the seaborne prairie, the killing between people here would certainly last a long time. By then, there would be a large number of resources to be sold. By then, there was no reason why the specter wouldn't appear. Half a month later, Lu Renquang had just stabilized his realm as an advanced dangling fisher, and Zhang Xuanyu hadn't made a breakthrough yet, but he had learned the spiritual pearl shield. Han Fei built 2 ultra-quality battle suits and weapons for each of them. However, Lu Renquang was an armorist who liked weapons very much. Anyway, after much coaxing and pestering, Han Fei built 8 ultra-quality spiritual weapons for him. Han Fei had made up his mind that all the credit Lu Renquang had made so far would be offset by the ultra-quality spiritual weapons he wanted. Then, Han Fei attached souls to the 99 blue sea wandering dragon daggers, which were all mess-swallowing worms. Then, he attached 2 big turtles to the water-dividing seal and the whetstone. He also found a single-horned shark and attached its soul to the blood-drinking knife. After all, it was almost impossible to find so many exotic creatures to attach their souls to in such a short time. Attaching souls to spiritual weapons was nothing more than to make the spiritual weapons more agile and have an additional effect. In the past, when a low-quality spiritual weapon was attached to a mess-swallowing worm, its speed was doubled. But now, after attaching souls to ultra-quality spiritual weapons, the speed was only 30% faster. Although it was only 30% faster, Han Fei still felt satisfied. The ultra-quality spiritual weapon itself was already terrifying enough. If its speed was increased by 30%, it would almost reach the peak of what he could achieve now. Han Fei made a calculation. Now, the total number of items in the hands of the 5 people was so high that Han Fei's head was about to explode. The rough list was as follows: there were 146 superior-grade spiritual weapons and 44 superior-grade battle suits. 1,502 mid-quality spiritual weapons, 320 mid-quality battle suits. 1,000 ultra-quality pearls. 300,000 high-quality pearls. 1 billion mid-quality pearls. There were 13,265 flash stones in total. 3,608 high-quality materials. There were a total of 966 combat skills books, and he had picked out all that he could use. And there were 13,068 spiritual fruits and more than 90,000 caddies of spiritual spring left. Han Fei didn't have to worry about where the spiritual energy came from at all. Now he was rich, the kind that was inhumane. Ha ha ha! Just when Han Fei was holding his chin and feeling hopeless, weird laughter suddenly sounded from the bottom of the sea and over the sea. Han Fei immediately shivered. Oh! It's coming! Han Fei shivered and hurriedly shouted, "Come on, the specter is coming. Let's board the ship quickly." Xia Shaochan was the first to rush over. What, it finally appeared. Do we have something to spend our money on? Lu Renkuang asked, didn't you say that there was nothing good on the specter? Luo Xiaobai wondered, the question is the specter so trustworthy? We have too many resources on us right now. What if the specter ship is tempted? Han Fei thought for a moment. Well, you 2 little girls stay outside. If we don't come out in a day, you can leave. No. Xia Shaochan said reluctantly, I want to go too. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Together. We can come out together. Luo Xiaobai suddenly took out an ancient jade and said, let's go up first. When the time comes, it depends on the situation on the specter as to how to use these resources. Seeing Luo Xiaobai take out the ancient jade, everyone grinned. Luo Xiaobai had completely revealed her identity. Her identity was completely revealed, and her status was probably no less than that of the children of the big clans, or even higher. Let's go. Let's go by. Chapter 532. On the surface of the sea, the sound waves reverberated far away. The 5 of them controlled the wind god boat and went straight to the ghost ship. After traveling for less than 2,000 miles, they saw an incomparably huge black ship. At this moment, the specter ship had not completely launched its attack yet. Most of its body was still underwater and was slowly emerging. The seawater on both sides of the ship flowed down from the sky like a waterfall. Lu Renkuang even exclaimed, colorful divine light. What did I see? That's the colorful divine light, isn't it? Han Fei was stunned for a long time. Why does this term sound so familiar? Then, Zhang Xuanyu said, legend has it that the rainbow divine light is the bridge to the sea god, but no one has ever succeeded. Pooh! Han Fei suddenly remembered what He Xiaoyu told him before. Previously, he showed He Xiaoyu how to make a rainbow. Then, He Xiaoyu was shocked and said that it was the colorful divine light. At this moment, seeing the surprised faces of Lu Renkuang and Zhang Xuanyu, Han Fei said angrily, shut up, both of you. That's called a rainbow. It's just the most common natural phenomenon. Xia Shaochan asked curiously, what is a rainbow? Han Fei said uninterestedly, that's the light reflected from a certain angle when sunlight shines into the mist. There are 7 colors in total: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. If you take a closer look, you'll find that there are more than just these colors. Xia Xiaochan's eyes flickered and she looked at the rainbow, a little confused. Was it really like what Han Fei said? Why do I feel a sense of familiarity? But soon, everyone's eyes shifted from rainbow to the specter ship. Is this specter ship? Zhang Xuanyu swallowed. Han Fei, is this the specter you asked me to find? Why is it so similar to the specter ship in the abyssal chasm? Lu Renhuang clicked his tongue and said, it seems a bit shabby. Han Fei said with a smile, this must be an abandoned dragon boat. Who modified it? I don't know what method was used to make this ship run on the bottom of the sea. Luo Xiaobai asked, huh? Why is this boat raising its flag? Han Fei smiled. Isn't that? Shoot, Han Fei was smiling a second ago, but the next second, he looked awful. What did he see? How did the pirate pattern that he had casually drawn on the ghost ship become the flag of the ghost ship? Luo Xiaobai asked, Han Fei, what's wrong? Han Fei coughed quickly. Nothing. I just remembered someone. Han Fei couldn't help but become serious. Who was the person he met on the specter ship that time? Back then, he had even given her a scroll. He was too embarrassed to throw it away in front of him, so he still threw it in Forge the Universe. Han Fei couldn't help but search in Forge the Universe. Sure enough, he found the scroll in the mud pit next to the big red trunk. Han Fei couldn't help but roll it up and move it to a conspicuous place. Back then, if that person had the ability to directly change the flag of the specter ship, it would probably not have been something simple. Han Fei didn't know what to say. If he hadn't seen the specter ship, he would have forgotten about it. Shadows appeared in all directions. They were fishing boats nearby, and they were coming after hearing the noise. When Han Fei and the others landed on the boat, the water under their feet was sizzling, crabs were passing through the deck, and small squid babies were crawling on the deck. Seeing Han Fei and the others, they spurted out a bunch of ink with a puff. Gotcha! When Lu Renhuang jumped off the boat, he seemed to have used too much force and accidentally stepped on a piece of wood on the deck, leaving a hole. Lu Renhuang was shocked. Is this ship really as good as you said? Han Fei said, let's go in. Han Fei picked up a black robe from the corner of the deck, and then picked up a faceless mask from the wall outside the cabin. After putting it on, he said, put it on. Let's go in. After a while, the 5 of them stood at the door, knocked, and paid a batch of mid-quality pearls. Then Han Fei entered the dark and damp place with the specter again. Xia Shaochan said, there's the sound of water, very loud. Han Fei said, the middle part is hollow and seems to be directly connected to the bottom of the sea. I don't know how this thing works. Zhang Xuanyu looked around and said, there's no one here. Just after Zhang Xuanyu said this, someone said to the 5 of them via voice transmission, hey, friends, are you here to sell things or buy things? Can you consider me? I have all kinds of spiritual weapons, spiritual fruits, spiritual pills, and miraculous medicines. Lu Renhuang asked curiously, are we going to trade like this? That's too casual. Han Fei patted him. There's a trade hall. With that, Han Fei said to the man, brother, wait for the next wave. There are a lot of people behind. Seeing that Han Fei was quite familiar with the specter, the man didn't speak anymore but quietly leaned against the railing. Along the way, they saw faceless men setting up stalls everywhere, and mid-quality spiritual energy, spiritual fruits, and so on were placed casually on the ground. They even saw several faceless men with superior-grade spiritual weapons on the ground for sale. Xia Shaochan said, I saw a pair of daggers. Han Fei was speechless. High-quality spiritual daggers. You can buy them and eat them. The faceless man who set up the stall was speechless. Who the hell is this guy? So what if it's a high-grade dagger? What's wrong with it? This is the top weapon in the level 3 fishery, okay? Han Fei led them to a random trading hall. This dragon boat had just emerged from the water and there weren't many people here yet, but Han Fei still saw more than a dozen people who were faster than him and had already started to trade. As soon as they entered the trading hall, Xia Shaochan and the others were speechless. Zhang Xuanyu asked, Fei Fei, are you sure there are good things here? Xia Shaochan said, look at the wall, there are a lot of sale notices hanging on it. Luo Xiaobai said, let's wait and see. Since Han Fei has been here, let's see how he trades first. Han Fei went straight to the faceless man's staff and said directly, I want to sell something. Immediately, the faceless man got up and said, please come this way. The faceless man led Han Fei to the table to talk face to face, but Han Fei said, I want to sell a lot of things. The staff said lightly, only things worth more than 100 million can go to the exclusive negotiation hall. Are you sure you can make such a large transaction? Han Fei said lightly, lead the way. The faceless man paused and nodded slightly, but he still reminded Han Fei, sir, please make sure that the transaction volume is enough. Otherwise, you will have to pay at least 10 million mid-quality pearls to compensate the owner for the loss of time. Han Fei. At that time, Han Fei was shocked. Time loss compensation. 10 million mid-quality pearls. Are you kidding me? Han Fei thought for a while and said, okay. The 4 of them will come with me. The faceless man hesitated for a moment and then nodded. Please come with me. Han Fei and the others entered from a side door of the trading hall and then passed through 3 barriers in a row. Each door was painted with a pirate pattern that he had drawn casually. Han Fei couldn't help asking, when did the pattern on your door change? The faceless man said calmly, it was changed a few months ago. Han Fei asked, who changed it? Sir, your question is beyond my ability to answer. Han Fei curled his lips. But no one would see it. At this moment, they walked into a tunnel, which was different from the secret passage that Han Fei took before. This tunnel was like a gloomy corridor. The sides of the corridor were quite dry, so the humidity was not so heavy. Lu Rinquang asked, why do I always feel that something is wrong? The hexagon starfish on Lu Rinquang's shoulder said, there are no barriers. I'm very sure. In this strange environment, they didn't really believe it. Even Han Fei didn't believe it. If he hadn't seen the pirate flag hanging on the ghost ship, he wouldn't have dared to follow the faceless man in. Creak. When a door opened, the faceless man said, Sir, please come in. As Han Fei and the others entered, the wooden door behind them was closed with a creak. To be honest, Han Fei was not afraid. In fact, if something similar happened on the dragon boat, even if Luo Xiaobai's trump card was useless, he still had the sky-dissecting finger. Although it seemed a bit wasteful to use the sky-dissecting finger here, Han Fei didn't mind using it to save his life. In the gloomy darkness, a fire lit up. In fact, there was no need for the fire at all. Han Fei and the others saw that in this huge room, there were all kinds of treasures placed on the 4 walls. Xia Shaochan said, an ultra-quality dagger. Zhang Xian secretly exclaimed, a heaven-level high-quality combat skill. Lu Rinquang exclaimed, oh my god, an armorist's secret technique. Even without their reminder, Han Fei also saw that the room was full of all kinds of good things. The weapons were all ultra-quality, the battle suits were ultra-quality, the spiritual fruits all had protective barriers, and the combat skills were at least demon-level, mid-quality, and many of them were heaven-level. In addition, Han Fei also saw things like amulets and some alien creatures that he had never seen before. Of course, these were not important. In the very center of the room was a small round pool. In the center of the pool, there was a beautiful mermaid with a graceful figure, holding a clam in her hand, and the clam was spitting water out of its mouth. When he saw the mermaid, Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. Fuck you. Really? Han Fei thought it was just a statue, but information appeared in his eyes. Name a mermaid. Introduction. A sea demon with sound intelligence, the opposite race of human beings, good at mermaid combat skills. Because of the different combat skills they practice, their combat characteristics are different and can't be explained. Status. Dead. Everyone's eyes were attracted by the dead mermaid at this moment. Han Fei even leaned forward to take a look, only to find that this mermaid was actually not beautiful. Although she had a complete human face, there was a fierce look on her face. Besides, her bones were a little protruding, and she was a little less gentle than normal women. Xia Shaochan asked, "Is this an inferior manfish?" Han Fei pondered and said, "Definitely not. An inferior manfish must be an ordinary fish. This mermaid has completely evolved. Except for the fact that she doesn't have legs, she is not much different from a human being." Xia Shaochan stared at her for a long time and said slowly, "If the bones on her face weren't so protruding, I'm afraid she would be quite beautiful." Lu Renkuang's eyes widened. "Is this a mermaid?" Zhang Xuanyu swallowed. "Can I catch this as my spiritual beast?" Everyone. Han Fei really wanted to kick Zhang Xuanyu away. "You want to catch a mermaid as your spiritual beast? What are you trying to do?" Creak. A slightly hoarse voice said, "Young man, you are too impatient. You just saw a mermaid and you want to catch her as your spiritual beast. Then if you see a real mermaid, won't you become a member of the Sea Clan?" Everyone quickly looked back, only to see a tall faceless man leaning against the door frame, watching this scene quietly. Han Fei frowned. When did this man come in? Han Fei smiled and said, "Are you a senior trader on the dragon boat?" The man chuckled and said, "Haven't you seen me before?" "Guess." Han Fei's face suddenly changed. "Are you the person from that day?" The faceless man chuckled. "Young man, you have a good memory. What do you think of the flag of the dragon boat? Isn't it awesome?" Han Fei bared his teeth. "You plagiarized my idea." The faceless man said, "Young man, don't talk nonsense. How can I plagiarize your idea? Didn't I pay you back?" Han Fei frowned. That scroll. However, he hadn't used that scroll yet. He used to think it was a piece of garbage. Only now did he realize that this thing might really be a life-saving item. Han Fei changed the topic. "I scribbled something casually. I don't think I can exchange it for that thing, can I?" The faceless man smiled. "I was in a good mood that day, so I threw something to you casually. What's the harm?" Then the faceless man raised his hands. "I heard that you are going to make a large transaction. Young man, if the transaction is less than 100 million yuan, you will be fined." Han Fei frowned. "What do you want to trade?" "We don't need the things in this room." The faceless man chuckled. "It seems that you came prepared. It seems that you robbed a lot in the steps into the sea and the seaborne grassland. You must have some money. In that case, I'll give you a few options to choose from." Luo Xiaobai asked, "Han Fei, how does he know about us?" Han Fei replied, "I forgot to tell you, the intelligence of the specter is terrifying. I don't know where they got the intelligence at all. I guess our identities have been exposed as soon as we came in." "Then why are we still here?" "I recognized it last time. It's okay. This specter is much more trustworthy than the dragon boat." The faceless man laughed again. "Yes, the specter is certainly more trustworthy than the dragon boat. The dragon boat is just a tool for the big clans in the Thousand-Star City to seize benefits from the level 3 fishery. If you have no identity or status, who will catch you if you don't show off on the dragon boat?" Hiss. Xia Shaochan subconsciously held the dagger. Lu Renkuang's face twitched. "He can hear our voice transmission." The faceless man chuckled. "So what if he can hear your voice transmission? As long as your soul power is strong enough, you can hear other people's voice transmission." "Okay, do you want to hear what I listed for you?" Han Fei nodded. "What is it?" The faceless man walked over to the mermaid pond, and Han Fei and the others quickly took a few steps back. As the faceless man gently patted the mermaid, the sea clam in the mermaid's hand no longer flowed out ordinary seawater, but a stream of green liquid. Spirit awakening fluid? Han Fei and the others couldn't help but exclaim, "Is there anyone selling spirit awakening fluid on this specter?" The faceless man chuckled. "Yes, spirit awakening fluid. You have all used this thing. But do you know the real value of spirit awakening fluid?" Han Fei was stunned. "Isn't spirit awakening fluid used for spiritual awakening? Does it have any other value?" Lu Renquang nodded. "We have all used this thing. There seems to be nothing special about it." The faceless man sneered. "Nothing special? Do you know how much spirit awakening fluid is used in a town every year?" Han Fei asked, "How much?" The faceless man said, "A town has 8 villages under its jurisdiction. Among them, the town uses about 10,000 caddies of spirit awakening fluid every year, and the 8 villages add up to no more than 5,000 caddies. Whoever has more spirit awakening fluid has to fight with their lives. Now do you still think spirit awakening fluid is ordinary? The 8 villages only have 5,000 caddies in total." Han Fei couldn't help but be stunned. He didn't feel it at the beginning. He only knew that spirit awakening fluid came out of the pool, but he didn't know how much came out. Anyway, the whole pool turned green. Xia Shaochan asked, "What's the use of spirit awakening fluid?" The faceless man said slowly, "Ordinary people won't improve their strength so fast, but some geniuses can improve their strength so fast that they can even cross several realms in a year. Do you know what the direct result of this is?" "What result?" The faceless man scooped a little spirit awakening fluid with his hand, stared at it for a while, and said, "The most direct result is that the growth rate of spiritual beasts and contractual spiritual beasts can't keep up with the growth rate of their masters at all." "Wow!" Han Fei said in shock, "You mean, spirit awakening fluid can make spiritual beasts and contractual spiritual beasts grow faster?" Xia Shaochan asked, "How fast can it be?" Luo Xiaobai asked, "Why don't I know?" The faceless man sneered. "You haven't been to the unknown place, so of course you don't know. In the level 1, level 2 fishery, what matters is experience, not spiritual beasts and contractual spiritual beasts." Then the faceless man said, "As for how fast, of course, the lower the level, the faster the improvement, and the higher the level, the slower the improvement. If it's fast, it can take 1 or 2 days, and if it's slow, it can take 10 days to half a month. If your spiritual beasts or contractual spiritual beasts haven't been improved for a long time, it's normal for them to make a breakthrough on the same day. Besides, if they reach level 39, spirit awakening fluid can even help them complete the last step and enter level 40. "Wow!" Zhang Xuanyu said in surprise, "So fast. How is it possible?" Lu Renquang asked, "Then won't we be invincible after soaking in spirit awakening fluid?" "Humph!" The faceless man sneered. "Do you think spirit awakening fluid will be cheap? 300,000 mid-quality pearls per caddy, no bargaining." "How much?" Han Fei's eyes widened. "A caddy of spirit awakening fluid is more expensive than a mid-quality spiritual weapon. The price of a mid-quality spiritual weapon on a dragon boat might reach 400,000 to 600,000 mid-quality pearls. On a ghost boat, it was about 200,000 to 300,000. The middle-aged man said lightly, "In addition to the growth of spiritual beasts and contractual spiritual beasts, spirit awakening fluid can also be absorbed by people. As long as you absorb enough, you can even improve your spiritual heritage, increase your soul power, and strengthen your physique. There are many benefits. You can explore them slowly." Han Fei and the others looked at each other. It was the first time that they had learned that spirit awakening fluid had such benefits. Han Fei immediately asked, "How much spirit awakening fluid does it take to upgrade a level 30 spiritual beast?" The middle-aged man smiled and said, "A few dozen caddies, or even less." Luo Xiaobai asked, "What about level 39? The middle-aged man pondered for a moment. "It may be hundreds or even thousands of caddies." Han Fei was tempted. He couldn't help but be tempted. He couldn't go to the Soul Ocean at all, so he couldn't quickly upgrade Little Black and Little White's levels. Han Fei believed that if Little Black was upgraded to level 39 or level 40, he could eat all the spiritual beasts in the level 3 fishery. 300,000 per caddy, then if I buy 10,000 caddies, it will be 3 billion? Han Fei didn't know what to say. When he boarded the Spectre, he felt that the total value of the 5 of them was quite high. But now it seemed that they couldn't even afford 10,000 caddies of spirit awakening fluid. Han Fei resisted the impulse and continued to ask, "Is there anything else you recommend?" The faceless man chuckled. "Yes. Do you want soul crystals? 400,000 mid-quality pearls each. Cheap, right?" Puff. Xia Shaochan immediately said, "We only spent 30,000 on the steps into the sea." The faceless man laughed. "The problem is that the steps into the sea don't produce soul crystals anymore because of you. Besides, you cheated them out of buying them, didn't you? Ordinary people don't know about soul crystals, so they are greedy for money. The price on the Spectre is 400,000 per piece." Han Fei had a hunch that he was going to go bankrupt. When the faceless man mentioned soul crystals, Han Fei knew that he would definitely buy them. Not to mention how many Xia Shaochan and the others needed, he would probably have to buy hundreds of them. Now his spiritual power had just broken through 1001 points, which meant that it could continue to grow. If he relied on his own cultivation, it would be too slow. So Han Fei certainly wouldn't let go of the soul crystals. However, Han Fei asked again, "Is there anything else?" The faceless man let out a weird laugh. "Yes. There are also the immortal seal of a peak-level hanging fisher and the peak-level blow of a junior hidden fisher. The price is not expensive, 100 million mid-quality pearls each." "Wow," Zhang Xuanyu exclaimed, "immortal seal. The kind of immortal seal on the children of the big clans in the Thousand-Star City?" Lu Renquang exclaimed, "Oh my god. Can this also be sold?" Xia Shaochan's eyes lit up. The children of the big clans in the Thousand-Star City dominated the level 3 fishery with this. She didn't expect that this could also be sold. The faceless man smiled and said, "As long as you want, the things that the Spectre can provide will always be beyond your expectations." "So, how are you going to buy it?" Luo Xiaobai asked doubtfully. "The immortal seal is a kind of restriction that a strong master placed in my body. Even if you can arrange it, how can we trust you?" The faceless man smiled and said, "Who says that the immortal seal must be arranged in the body? This thing, like the amulet, can also be sealed as long as necessary. When you use it, you just need to crush it, and the same effect will be achieved." The reason why the big clans arranged it in the bodies of their juniors is that they don't want their juniors to use it on their own initiative. Han Fei asked, "Why is the immortal seal of a peak-level hanging fisher and the peak-level blow of a junior hidden fisher the same price? And this so-called peak-level blow, is it the full-strength blow of a junior hidden fisher?" The faceless man nodded. "You're right. The reason why it is the same price is that the immortal seal can withstand multiple attacks. And even if you are beaten to death, it will save you once. And the peak-level blow of a junior hidden fisher seems powerful, but it may not be able to kill a peak-level hanging fisher." Han Fei and the others looked at each other, and they became more and more curious about the person in front of them. These things couldn't even be bought with money. But the Spectre was for sale. Xia Shaochan suddenly said, "Is there a sea-quelling bizarre treasure?" The faceless man glanced at Xia Shaochan. "Little girl, you think too much. If there really is a sea-quelling bizarre treasure, do you think you can afford it? Not to mention a sea-quelling bizarre treasure, you may not even be able to afford a divine weapon." Luo Xiaobai asked, "Is there a divine weapon for sale?" The faceless man smiled and said, "Yes. One-time consumable divine weapons, the price is about 200 million to 300 million. Multi-time consumable divine weapons, according to the number of times, the price is at least more than 500 million. Commonly used low-grade divine weapons cost at least 1 billion. Generally, yours sells for 2 billion. Do you want to see it?" Han Fei waved his hand again and again. No, I don't want to see it. Han Fei was speechless. What the fuck do I want to see? I only have 1 billion mid-quality pearls on me. If I buy a divine weapon, I'll lose all of them. Han Fei said, we need to discuss for a moment. The faceless man smiled and said, go ahead, but don't keep me waiting. Seeing that the faceless man didn't intend to leave, Han Fei asked Master Hexagon to set up a soundproof array. In the array, Han Fei asked, Master Hexagon, can he hear me? The hexagon starfish's big eyes kept rolling. I don't know. I don't know if this person is powerful or not. Luo Xiaobai shook her head slightly. Even if he can hear me, there's nothing we can do. He has already said the price. All we can discuss now is how much to buy. Lu Renquang nodded. We have to buy the immortal seal. It's like a second life. If we don't buy it, won't we suffer a loss? Luo Xiaobai shook her head slightly. I have it. You can buy it for self-defense. Everyone was speechless. The children of big clans were really different. These things were all free. Zhang Xuanyu complained, Old Bai is too stingy, isn't he? Why can't he give each of us an immortal seal? Lu Renquang and Xia Shaochan nodded, feeling that Old Bai must have a lot of good things that he didn't give them. Xia Shaochan looked at Han Fei. How do you think we should buy it? Han Fei thought for a moment. For immortal seals and a peak strike, just in case. Zhang Xuanyu clicked his tongue. 500 million. That's all. Han Fei said, we must buy the Spirit Awakening Fluid. We have a total of 1,822 mid-quality spiritual weapons and battle suits, all of which can be exchanged for the Spirit Awakening Fluid. Wow! Lu Renquang gasped. How much is that? I'm afraid we'll lose 500 or 600 million. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. I want 500 soul crystals. We have a total of 3,608 high-quality materials and nearly 1,000 combat skills. We should be able to exchange for a lot of them. Gulp. Zhang Xuanyu staggered. I'm a little dizzy. What's left? Xia Shaochan added, I also want some soul crystals, at least 100. Lu Renquang scratched his belly. Can I owe you some? This time, it was an incomparably huge deal. Lu Renquang, Zhang Xuanyu, and Luo Xiaobai barely robbed. Although they had explored some secret realms, they were definitely not as good as Han Fei and Xia Shaochan. Theoretically speaking, Xia Shaochan might have robbed fewer things than Han Fei, but not by much. At this moment, it was up to Lu Renquang and the others whether to buy it or not. Han Fei thought for a moment. Humph. I'll buy 100 soul crystals for each of you first so that you can dig more mystic realms. Xia Shaochan suddenly said, I think we should buy more Spirit Awakening Fluid. If it's really so magical, I'm afraid it won't be enough. The hexagon starfish suddenly said, Can I? Han Fei immediately said, No, you can't. The hexagon starfish's big eyes kept rolling. I did help. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up. You blackmailed me a lot of spiritual energy. Besides, I gave you a lot of golden things, didn't I? The hexagon starfish said, I did help. Han Fei said, if there are any soul crystals left, I'll give you some. The hexagon starfish asked, will there be any left? Han Fei said with a smile, probably. With that, they walked out of the soundproof array and saw the faceless man squinting at them. Seeing this look, Han Fei didn't feel good. That was what he and the others had worked so hard to get. They were going to die here. The faceless man asked, have you discussed it? Han Fei said, didn't you hear it? The faceless man shrugged. I didn't hear it. I'm not interested in eavesdropping. Han Fei wasn't sure whether this man was telling the truth or not, so he threw out hundreds of sea-swallowing seashells and said, here are all mid-quality spiritual weapons and mid-quality battle suits. I want to exchange them for Spirit Awakening Fluid. Those sea-swallowing seashells all floated beside the faceless man. After half an hour, the faceless man said slowly, "It seems that you have indeed robbed a lot of people. 1,802 mid-quality spiritual weapons, many of which are standard weapons of the children of the big clans in the Thousand-Star City. They are in good quality. I can give you 1,800 caddies of spirit awakening fluid." Han Fei gritted his teeth. How heartbreaking. Han Fei's face changed and he finally said, "Now." The faceless man pointed, and a sea-swallowing seashell opened, and a large amount of spirit awakening fluid rolled into it. It only took 10 minutes for 1,800 caddies of spirit awakening fluid to be thrown into Han Fei's hand. Han Fei threw dozens of sea-swallowing seashells over. All high-quality materials, and 1,000 combat skills, many of which are demon level. "I want soul crystals." The faceless man nodded for a while and said with a smile, "High-quality materials can be exchanged for soul crystals, 900 soul crystals. Among the combat skills, we already have 688 on the Spectre. I don't want them, but there are only 278 left, which can be exchanged for 362 soul crystals." Just when the faceless man was about to take the soul crystals, he suddenly heard Luo Xiaobai say, "Wait a minute." The faceless man asked, "Huh?" Luo Xiaobai said, "I want spirit awakening fluid." Han Fei knew that Luo Xiaobai must have a reason for saying this, so he nodded. "Then I'll exchange these combat skills for spirit awakening fluid." The faceless man said, "Okay, if you exchange them for spirit awakening fluid, 465 caddies." Han Fei bared his teeth. "Why don't you accept the combat skills that you already have?" The faceless man smiled. "You can accept them, but the price is cheap. If you can sell them separately on the dragon boat, it should be worth a lot." Of course, Han Fei wouldn't sell them on the dragon boat. These things were all stolen. Were they just waiting to be caught in the act? Han Fei thought of something. "What about the Spectre?" The faceless man smiled and said, "Okay, up to you. When you sell them, we can continue the transaction." Han Fei gritted his teeth and said, "Continue the transaction. For immortal seals, 1 peak level strike of a junior hidden fisher." Han Fei threw out hundreds of sea-swallowing seashells at once. High-quality spiritual weapons and high-quality battle suits, and the rest are all mid-quality pearls. The faceless man probed for a while and finally said, "Young man, you're quite rich." Han Fei curled his lips. "Don't get any funny ideas." "Ha ha ha. I do business on the Spectre and I'm honest with you. Since you can afford it, I can certainly afford it." The faceless man waved his hand and 4 cyan radiance ancient jade floated in front of Han Fei, plus a crimson ancient jade. Before grabbing it, Han Fei and the others could feel the power emanating from this ancient jade. Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Rinquang swallowed crazily. "He's too rich. He's inhumanly rich." Lu Rinquang said, "If the president finds out, I'm afraid he will tear us apart." Chapter 533. At this moment, Han Fei had basically spent all the things he didn't need, except for more than 10,000 flash stones, which were worthless. Han Fei exchanged them for 8,000 spiritual fruits. Unfortunately, there were only 8,200 flash stones left, and all the spiritual fruits on the ghost ship except the expensive ones had been bought by Han Fei. Considering that the spirit awakening fluid wouldn't be enough, Han Fei used 300 million mid-quality pearls and 3,200 flash stones to exchange for 1,050 caddies of spirit awakening fluid. At this point, the transaction was completely over. If the total consumption was converted into mid-quality pearls, it would be nearly 2 billion, which was an astronomical figure. However, the harvest was also huge. In total, there were 4 immortal seals and a peak stage strike of a junior hidden fisher. 3,315 caddies of spirit awakening fluid. 900 soul crystals. Yes, 2 billion mid-quality pearls were exchanged for these 3 things, which almost made Han Fei go bankrupt. And what Han Fei still had left was 1,000 ultra-quality pearls. 300,000 high-quality pearls. 500 million mid-quality pearls. 5,000 flash stones. 688 combat skills. There were 21,068 spirit fruits, of which about 2/3 were of the spirit chi category, and only 1/3 were of the energy category. More than 90,000 caddies of spiritual spring. After the transaction, the faceless man laughed. If you are going to make trouble for the dragon boats, I wish you a safe journey. Oh, by the way, if you want to go to the dragon boats, I can give you a suggestion for free. Han Fei waved his hand. Who will go to the dragon boats? The 5 of us are weak, we can't move, we can't move. The faceless man smiled. If you can't do anything, why do you want to buy the immortal seals and the peak stage strike? Han Fei chuckled. Do you have any good suggestions? The faceless man handed over a jade slip and said, if you succeed in the robbery, you can crush this jade slip and summon the ghost ship. Don't forget to make a deal with me. I still have a lot of treasures here, as long as you can afford it. Han Fei bared his teeth. Damn deal. This deal almost gave me a heart attack. How many fucking fish dragons would I have to buy with that deal? Thinking of the fish dragons, Han Fei guessed that after a year of development, their assets would be at least millions or even tens of millions. But what was the use of that? Now, he could buy the entire fish dragons with anything he had. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. In this world, small businesses are not profitable. When they left the internal trading hall, they went through several secret doors in a row, and when they reappeared, they were already inside a normal cabin. Fei Fei. Are we still going to sell things? Lu Renquang said, those combat skills can be sold on the boat. Luo Xiaobai said, we'd better not. We don't lack anything now. I always feel that the ghost ship is weird. There are too many good things here. How can it guarantee that it won't be swallowed by the dragon boat? Xia Shaochan nodded. Because he's powerful. Luo Xiaobai shook her head. No matter how powerful he is, he can't be more powerful than 100 dragon boats. Han Fei said with a smile, people run on the sea, but this thing runs under the sea. Dragon boats can't find it. But I also think that we can go out. We've already spent so much money, so why would we care about selling a few battle skills for that little bit of money? At this moment, Han Fei was the boss. After all, he was the money lord. All Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renquang needed to do was to wait and share the benefits. Han Fei and the others didn't stay on the ghost ship for a moment longer. Every second they stayed here made them feel distressed. Although they did get a lot of good things, they had exchanged a huge amount of resources for them. When Han Fei and the others flew off the dragon boat, they didn't know that in a small hole in the hull of the ghost ship, a pair of eyes was staring in the direction of their departure. Oh, damn little brat, you're really good at robbing people. I'm so distressed. Next time I come, I must raise the price. 10,000 kilometers away. 5 people and 1 star sat in the cabin. Han Fei handed an immortal seal to each of them. I don't know if this seal is useful. Anyway, 1 for each of you. I'll keep the red ancient jade. Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renquang nodded, and Xia Shaochan casually stuffed it into her sea-swallowing seashell, not taking it seriously. Han Fei said, soul crystals, 100 for each of you. Increase your perception range to 500 meters first. How much you can increase it later depends on your luck. Then Han Fei thought for a while and gave 200 to Xia Shaochan. I'll try the remaining 400. If I can't use them, I'll give them to you. Xia Shaochan looked at Han Fei with bright eyes. Can you still increase it? Han Fei chuckled. I'm just trying. Zhang Xuanyu said in surprise, what do you mean? How large is his perception range? Xia Shaochan said in frustration, 5,000 meters. Thud. Clang. Lu Renquang sat down on the deck, and Zhang Xuanyu was so excited that he jumped up and hit his head on the top of the ship. Even Luo Xiaobai's body swayed slightly. 5,000 meters. Are you sure you're not messing with us? Han Fei coughed and said, don't get excited. Let's divide the things first. The hexagon starfish clung to Han Fei's shoulder and said, I did help. Han Fei said grumpily, I know you did. Then. I'll give you 10 soul crystals. You can refine them first. The hexagon starfish waved its tentacles, and the 10 soul crystals were immediately sucked into its mouth, disappearing with a smack. Then, it was finally time to distribute the spirit awakening fluid. At this moment, Han Fei didn't immediately give it to everyone, but summoned 9 tails, ready to try the effect of this spirit awakening fluid. Since he came out of the sea grassland last time, 9 tails had reached level 35, which was related to Han Fei's habit of summoning him. At present, this guy had the highest level except for the 9 death soul-splitting octopus. Besides, Han Fei felt that the more he used the 9-tailed mantis shrimp, the more powerful it would be, so he threw 15 caddies of spirit awakening fluid at it. Spirit awakening fluid was too expensive. Han Fei only had 3,315 caddies in total. He couldn't throw 100 caddies to 9 tails at once. The 9-tailed mantis shrimp was confused at first, but when it smelled the spirit awakening fluid, it immediately sucked the spirit awakening fluid into its stomach. Then, everyone saw that 9-tails' body began to emit a little green shimmer. Zhang Xuanyu exclaimed, huh? It seems to be different from when it was awakened. It didn't glow at that time. Lu Renkuang said with a trembling face, at that time, thousands of people used a large pool, and there were only a few hundred caddies of spirit awakening fluid in a large pool, which was not enough for everyone. 9 tails was motionless. Han Fei scratched his head and said, wait, maybe 9 tails level is a bit high. Let me get Little Gold. Little Gold's growth speed was comparable to Little Black and Little White, but it was still at level 32. After Little Gold came out, it rubbed its head against Han Fei, and Han Fei grabbed 10 caddies of spirit awakening fluid and threw it into its mouth. This time, everyone was shocked. The spirit awakening fluid seemed to explode in Little Gold's body with a swish. After only less than 2 minutes, Little Gold's body flashed with a golden light and it leveled up. Zhang Xuanyu exclaimed, good stuff, 10 caddies leveled up. Han Fei grinned. The money was well spent. If he raised it slowly, how long would it take to raise a contractual spiritual beast to level up? Immediately, Han Fei threw 100 caddies of spirit awakening fluid to each of them and said, try it yourself first. Let's take a rest for a few days and leave when the spirit awakening fluid is used up. At this time, if the village leader of the Heavenly Water Village was here, he would vomit blood in anger. My fucking village uses less than 1,000 caddies of spirit awakening fluid a year, and you fucking used it up. Zhang Xuanyu and the others took the spirit awakening fluid and each controlled a fishing boat to go several kilometers away. Only Xia Shaochan sat on the deck and summoned the shadow shrimp and the red fire tricky shrimp. Seeing that Xia Shaochan didn't leave, Han Fei couldn't help but ask, why don't you catch a second contractual spiritual beast? While feeding the spirit awakening fluid, Xia Shaochan said, I didn't meet one that I wanted, and I don't want this red fire tricky shrimp either. It's nothing special except that it can increase my speed. Han Fei smacked his lips and said, then don't look for another one. When we go to the unknown place, there will definitely be better ones. Then Xia Shaochan suddenly asked, Han Fei, do you have 2 naturally endowed spiritual beasts? Han Fei shivered slightly and said stiffly, why do you say that? I only have Xiao Bai. Xia Shaochan narrowed her eyes and said, you must have 2 spiritual beasts. I've been paying attention to it for a long time. I felt something was wrong when I was in the level 2 fishery. I was very sure when I was in the Seaborn Prairie a few days ago. What is it? Is it also a fish? Han Fei sat on the deck. How can you tell? Xia Shaochan thought for a while and said, big starfish can't disappear. I couldn't find them last time. Also, when I was fighting, I always found that the enemy was making mistakes, more than once. Also, I thought the soul-attracting jellyfish was a combat skill, but now the more I think about it, the more I feel that I can't believe it. You must have a spiritual beast that can be invisible. Seeing that the others were not here, Han Fei could only tell the truth. It's a spirit-swallowing fish that looks like black and little white. Only I can see it. Xia Xiaochan's eyes widened. Is it a couple fish? Han Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What couple fish? Little black and little white are like a whole. Little black is responsible for eating, and little white is responsible for breathing spiritual energy. That's it. Xia Xiaochan's eyes lit up. Can I touch it? Chapter 534. Han Fei hesitated for a moment. Okay. With a flash between his eyebrows, little black and little white appeared. Han Fei grabbed little black and said, "Come on, let your mom touch you." Xia Xiaochan glared at Han Fei and then touched something in the air. When she touched something slippery, she exclaimed in surprise, "It's real." Alas! As a hunter, I can't feel it at all. Little Black didn't seem to like being touched, so he opened his mouth and wanted to bite. Han Fei quickly said, "Don't bite." Xia Xiaochan had already felt the sharp teeth on her skin. Then she withdrew her hand and sniffed it. Ha! No smell. This was also Little Black's characteristic. Not only was his body a shadow, but when he swam, he could hardly feel anything in the sea, including in the air, which was why others couldn't easily find him. Han Fei said, "Little Black's existence is a secret. Don't tell anyone else." Yes, yes. Xia Xiaochan nodded repeatedly. So, you also have two spiritual beasts. Han Fei thought for a while. In terms of number, this was indeed two, so he nodded again. Yes. Bo. Xia Xiaochan suddenly kissed Han Fei on the cheek, jumped to the surface of the sea, and ran away. Han Fei touched his mouth and looked dumbfounded. Is she crazy? Why did she suddenly kiss me? Xia Xiaochan was in a very good mood. It turned out that she was not the only one with two spiritual beasts. However, Han Fei was not in the mood to fall in love at the moment. He immediately took out 10 caddies of spirit awakening fluid and threw it into Little Black's mouth. This time, the speed was even faster. In only 2 minutes, Little Black and Little White's bodies flashed and they were level 32. Then he fed them another 10 caddies, but there was no reaction. Then he fed them another 10 caddies, but there was no reaction. After feeding them 5 times, Little Black and Little White leveled up again and became level 33. Han Fei couldn't help but take a breath. The effect of this spirit awakening fluid was even better than what the faceless man told him. At this moment, Little Black and Little White were already at the same level as Little Gold. 7 days later. The nine-tailed mantis shrimp was level 37, Little Gold was level 35, Little Black and Little White were level 36, and Little Fatty was level 38, so Han Fei didn't give him spirit awakening fluid. In just 3 days, Han Fei spent about 300 caddies of spirit awakening fluid on the nine-tailed mantis shrimp. He used 200 kilograms on Xiao Jin and 500 kilograms on Xiao He and Xiao Bai. As for soul crystals, Han Fei overestimated his room for growth. When he reached the 25th fragment of the God-scaring painting, it was useless for him to continue absorbing the soul crystals. Besides, from the 21st one, the number of soul crystals consumed had become 50, which meant that one soul crystal could provide him with a perception range of 10 meters. But fortunately, Han Fei's perception range had reached 9,999 meters at this moment, which had doubled. Han Fei knew that he had reached a bottleneck again. His spiritual power had reached 1299. Han Fei felt that his head was much clearer. He did not know if it was an illusion, but there were several times when he felt that his eyes could see through the seawater. Han Fei finally realized the usefulness of the spirit awakening fluid. According to the natural process, it would take at least 2 or 3 years for Xiao Jin to reach level 35, and the nine-tailed mantis shrimp to reach level 37 or level 38. As for Xiao Hei and Little White, it would take them a long time to reach level 36. But the spirit awakening fluid helped them achieve the goal of several years in just 3 days, which made Han Fei excited. What if he had 10,000 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid? Besides, the faceless man said that the spirit awakening fluid was also useful to humans, but Han Fei thought that he could improve his spiritual heritage with a cultivation method, so he didn't really need it. Besides, he didn't have enough spirit awakening fluid to begin with, and it was obviously not enough for Little Black and Little White. It seems that I have to work hard to make money. If I can rob the dragon boat. TSK. Of course, this business was definitely a loss in the eyes of many people. After all, as long as a few years passed, their contractual spiritual beasts and spiritual beasts would grow stronger, so why spend money? But how could Han Fei have so much time to raise them? The enemy of the dragon boat was right in front of him, and it would be precious if he didn't improve his strength at this moment. Unlike Han Fei, none of them used spirit awakening fluid to cultivate their contractual spiritual beasts, but gave all the spirit awakening fluid to their naturally endowed spiritual beasts. Especially Luo Xiaobai, her blue cannibal flower even showed signs of breaking through level 40. How many days had it been? A few days ago, the blue cannibal flower had just reached level 39, and now it seemed that it would break through at any time. Xia Xiaochan's shadow shrimp reached level 37, but she didn't feed it to the giant arowana. In its words, the giant arowana was too strong, so she just needed to raise it slowly. Zhang Xuanyu's bloodthirsty shark reached level 37. Lu Renquang's spiritual clam had reached level 38 at this moment, probably because of its special physique, breaking through 3 levels in a row. So far, the spirit awakening fluid they spent nearly 800 million yuan on was all used up. Luo Xiaobai said, "When I go back this time, I'll find out how to obtain spirit awakening fluid." This time, we got 2 little spirit awakening fluid. If we can have enough spirit awakening fluid, I think our strength can be doubled. Zhang Xuanyu said excitedly, "Yes, we spent too much money. It's more cost-effective for us to find it ourselves." Han Fei didn't think so. Isn't the purpose of improving our strength to grab more resources? This is why the strong get stronger. Luo Xiaobai nodded slightly. We can't just use yours. We can do it ourselves in the future. Otherwise, you should be stronger if you use it alone. Han Fei grinned and said, "I'm giving you things because I want you to do great things." Lu Renquang said cautiously, "To rob a dragon boat?" Everyone had long known Han Fei's purpose, but they had never asked why. At this moment, Zhang Xuanyu couldn't help but say, "Fei Fei, can you still find the dragon boat that chased you? Or do we just find a random one and get on it?" Han Fei rolled his eyes at Zhang Xuanyu. "Of course, I want to find that dragon boat. I have a big grudge with the hanging fisher on that boat." Everyone thought that the big grudge was that Han Fei was almost killed by the people on the dragon boat and the Sun family. In fact, only Han Fei himself knew that there was a barrier in his heart. If he couldn't get revenge, he couldn't get over it. On the path of cultivation, the most dreaded thing was the mental test, so no matter what, Han Fei would take revenge. 1 month later. News had spread all over the dragon boat. According to the news, the Wind God boat was wandering around the entire level 3 fishery. Every day, there were always people who saw the Wind God boat, like a bolt of lightning, drawing a beautiful red streamline on the sea. On the top of a certain dragon boat, a hanging fisher was holding a fishing rod in his hand, holding his chin with one hand, fishing in boredom. Behind this hanging fisher, a man in a black robe stood here quietly. "My lord, if my guess is right, Han Fei and the others should be coming for our dragon boat." The hanging fisher grunted slightly and then said in a lazy voice, "I didn't kill him on the spot, because I should have known that he would come back for revenge." Looking at this person's experience in the level 3 fishery, he should be a vengeful person. The man in a black robe asked, "My lord, do you need us to secretly arrange people to snipe him? The hanging fisher sneered. Didn't you say that he has a disguise technique? How can you find him? The man in a black robe said, My lord, this boy has a lot of opportunities. The children of the 7 major sects in the 1,000-star city have all suffered losses in his hands. Although my lord's strength is unfathomable, these 5 people. It doesn't matter. The hanging fisher waved his hand gently and said, 5 dangling fishers, even if they have a lot of opportunities, can they join forces to kill me? Let's wait for the fish to take the bait. The man in a black robe wanted to say something but finally swallowed it. He cursed in his heart. Of course it doesn't matter, but I went to kill him myself. That damn bastard, the first person he came for was definitely me. Don't you know that? The man in a black robe thought for a long time and felt that he couldn't stay on this dragon boat any longer, at least not in the ghost market. He made up his mind to secretly leave the dragon boat, teleport to an irrelevant town, and then find a village to live in seclusion. After 3 or 5 years, no one in this cruel level 3 fishery would remember him. Half an hour later. Outside the ghost market on the dragon boat, a big man walked into the dark and dirty 3-story house. This man had a square face and his aura was unstable, looking like an intermediate dangling fisher. He had just injected a large amount of spiritual energy into a scapegoat. Ha! Aren't you afraid of their revenge? I'm here to make money. Do you want me to die? This man was piercing his face with all kinds of small needles. Since Han Fei made waves in the seaborne prairie, he had been looking for a disguise technique, and now it really came in handy. Creak. He said angrily, This is my room. I live alone. Oh. Really? Didn't you say you could live freely on the 3rd floor? The man sneered. I robbed it. It's none of your business. However, in the next second, the man's face was full of horror. Han Fei. Yes, Han Fei removed the 1,000 faces technique and showed his true face to this man. Han Fei smiled faintly. Are you going to run away? You've done a good job, but why do you think you can run away from me now? The man looked frightened. Han Fei, this is a dragon boat. If you mess around, you won't be able to get out. Han Fei sneered. You don't need to worry about whether I can get out or not. A life for a life. Back then, I asked you to let that little girl go, but you refused. From that moment on, you were already dead. The man said in horror, Han Fei, this is the order of the hanging fisher. It has nothing to do with me. Let me go and I'll give you my sea-swallowing seashell. Hey, hee. Sea-swallowing seashell? I don't even bother to pick that thing up now. The reason why I'm here chatting with you is actually... As he spoke, the man only felt that his eyes were dazzled. Even though he had done enough, he was still a step too late. Bam! A figure smashed through a dozen houses and fell heavily to the ground, with several broken teeth and a nosebleed. Han Fei looked at the figure in the darkness and grinned. One punch Poison King. If you can survive, I will let you go. Just now, he felt something go down his throat into his stomach. His first reaction was to change back into his black robe and hurry to find the hanging fisher. After only less than 10 minutes, he ran to the 1st floor of the deck. Puff, ew! The black-robed man immediately felt his stomach churning and he seemed to have vomited the last New Year's Eve dinner. Not only that, his stomach seemed to explode, and he peed and pooped. Chapter 535. After Han Fei fed the black-robed man a mouthful of the Poison King, the first thing Han Fei did was not to follow up but to crush a flash stone. He didn't think that this black-robed man could slip away quietly under the nose of a hanging fisher. Han Fei even felt that it was the hanging fisher who was fishing. In fact, during this period of time, when Han Fei and the others were blatantly looking for dragon boats, the other party must have already known their purpose. As Han Fei expected, when he crushed the flash stone, there was a trace of palpitation in his heart. He must have been noticed. Han Fei appeared at the bottom of the dragon boat, where contractual spiritual beasts were kept. When Han Fei appeared, he happened to meet a guard on the dragon boat. The guard was startled by the sudden appearance of Han Fei. As soon as he was about to shout, a fist hit him in the stomach. The man didn't shout out. In the air, an octopus tentacle directly buckled him. After knocking the man out, Han Fei dragged the man to the corner, changed his clothes, and changed his appearance. After doing all this, Han Fei felt that his reaction was so fast that even he admired himself. Everything happened in a flash and no one else noticed it at all. As soon as Han Fei walked out of the corner, he ran into a man with a fierce face. When the man saw Han Fei, he immediately shouted, "Lu Xiaolu, what are you doing here? I asked you to patrol the farm, but you are slacking off here, aren't you?" Han Fei hurriedly said, I'm going. The man didn't doubt him and just snorted. After the patrol, hurry up and go to the front to pick up the customer. A big customer just came and asked for an exotic creature as his spiritual beast. You have to pay attention to it and recommend that mutant red-haired big-mouthed crab to it. You know the price. Han Fei thought to himself, what do I know? I'm leaving right away. As soon as Han Fei was about to leave, he was stopped by the man, who shouted, Where are you going? You little brat, the red-haired big-mouthed crab is over there. After a while, Han Fei was looking at a red-haired big-mouthed crab in a pool on a bridge that was more than 30 meters tall. He mumbled, Brother Crab, I'm sorry, but I think it's better for you to sacrifice yourself for your freedom. Then he casually dripped 4 or 5 drops of the Poison King into the pool. Below the dragon boat, there were all livestock areas. Only some of the creatures were kept together, and most of the creatures were kept separately, so the ponds were almost separated by layers. Han Fei didn't care at all. He didn't take the big man's words seriously at all. He walked all the way and the Poison King dropped all the way. As a matter of fact, after walking for 3 to 5 li, someone called out, Hey! Isn't that Lu Xiaolu? Why did Chief Wang let you come here? An advanced dangling fisher. Han Fei chuckled. Oh! Isn't there a big client in front? Chief Wang asked me to see if there are any exotic octopuses here. I thought there might be one in front, so I went to check it out first. The man was stunned for a moment. Me? Really? You mean the 3-eyed octopus? Can't you just bring the guests there? Why do you have to make a trip? Really? Han Fei's eyes flickered and he whispered in the man's ear, Inside story. The man was startled and hurriedly said, Oh. I see. Then hurry up. Don't let Chief Wang wait for too long. Han Fei nodded and hurried all the way. From time to time, Han Fei saw a group of clients choosing contractual spiritual beasts around the waterhole. Han Fei threw the Poison King at every pool he passed, thinking, You can choose, you can sell, I'm here to cause trouble today. Han Fei and the others boarded the dragon boat separately. Originally, they agreed to meet in the employment hall, but as soon as Han Fei came up, he sensed the strange behavior of the black-robed man, so he didn't go to the appointment for the time being. Oh no! The contractual spiritual beast is sick. It was unknown where this shout came from, but it immediately attracted the attention of many people. Someone even sneered. Are you fucking retarded? How can contractual spiritual beasts get sick? But then these people were stunned, because a large number of creatures began to vomit. There was a single-horned shark that directly began to hit the pool with its head, and its tail spewed filth everywhere. There was a soft squid, which was really soft. Ink sprayed everywhere, spraying the entire pool black. There was a red flame python, spewing flames from its mouth and waving its tail, spraying all kinds of filth all over the sky. After about 2 minutes, someone shouted, Someone poisoned. After another few minutes, someone shouted, Search for Lu Xiaolu on the boat. He is an imposter. When they were frantically catching fierce beasts on the bottom floor, Han Fei saw a man walking towards him. Without saying a word, he knocked him down with a punch, and then his face changed. At the exit, Han Fei threw a Poison King smoke into the cabin. Hey! Take your time to catch Lu Xiaolu. On the first deck, everyone was holding the railing, looking at the black-robed man struggling on the sea, terrified. Just now, after the black-robed man appeared on the deck for a while, he was caught by a fishing hook that fell from the sky and thrown into the sea. On the sea, it was no longer a matter of whether he was caught or not. The black-robed man's situation became more and more serious. He kept vomiting all kinds of things mixed with internal organs. His internal organs were probably all damaged and he was hopeless. Someone shivered all over and said, "Who did this guy offend? He's so miserable." Someone sighed. "Damn, why is my right eyelid twitching? I have a feeling that something bad is going to happen." Someone couldn't bear to look at it. Feeling disgusted, he said, "This is too cruel. He's going to vomit blood and flesh." At this moment, the black-robed man had already sunk into the sea. Someone could see through the fishing hook that he was more than just vomiting and diarrhea. Blood was oozing out of the pores all over the black-robed man's body, and some parts even cracked. His body seemed to be gradually melting. It stood to reason that there should be a large number of fish around the dragon boat, but at this moment, there was no fish around the black-robed man. Many creatures were floating on the sea with their bellies up, and none of the other creatures dared to approach him at all. On the first deck, a few people in ordinary clothes were talking to each other via voice transmission. Zhang Xuanyu asked, "Xia Shaochan, is this the Poison King you mentioned?" "Yes, but Han Fei seems to have used too much of it. One drop should be enough to kill him. But judging from the situation of this person, Han Fei should have used a lot of it." Lu Renkuang added, "More than a lot. I wonder if he filled this guy's body with the Poison King. This is too terrifying." Luo Xiaobai didn't look at him anymore but just wondered, why did Han Fei suddenly act on his own? Zhang Xuanyu said grumpily, "He is a guy who doesn't play by common sense. I don't know where he is now." Just when many people on the dragon boat were watching the sea, dozens of people rushed out of nowhere, all vomiting and having diarrhea. Those who were in better condition directly exclaimed, "Guards, guards! EW! Something happened on the bottom floor. EW! Someone poisoned." The deck was in a panic for a while. Everyone could watch the fun, but they absolutely didn't want to get themselves involved. Who knew if this poison was contagious? Someone immediately exclaimed, "Let's go, let's go. Don't fucking come to the crowd." Someone said angrily, "We can't stay here anymore. It must be Han Fei who dares to poison the dragon boat. It must be Han Fei." Many people remembered what happened on the steps into the sea. Although the major families and the 7 major sects in the Thousand-Star City tried their best to suppress this matter, it didn't become widely known. However, there was no such thing as an impenetrable wall. Many people knew that Han Fei overturned the Thousand-Star City with a single poison. At this moment, this situation was exposed in front of them. Coupled with the symptoms of the poisoned people, many people were horrified. Is Han Fei coming to retaliate? Luo Xiaobai said, "Let's go to the employment hall first and meet up there." Xia Shaochan wondered, "How do you know he will still go to the employment hall?" Luo Xiaobai said, "He has made such a big mess. It's impossible for him to go to the hanging fisher alone. If he doesn't come in a short time, we will find a way to sneak into the 4th floor. If anything happens on the top floor, we will know immediately." On the top of the dragon boat, the hanging fisher sat on the boat with a cold face. He didn't expect Han Fei to be so crazy. It was reasonable for him to take revenge on the black-robed man. He deliberately didn't let the black-robed man go because he wanted to lure Han Fei out, but he was still a step too late. As a result, this guy went to the bottom floor to harm the contractual spiritual beasts. Who the fuck would have thought that? The hanging fisher gritted his teeth. "Don't let me catch you, humph." Chapter 536. Han Fei still didn't go to meet Xia Shaochan and the others immediately. In his opinion, the dragon boat was a place where the major clans in the Thousand-Star City made money. It seemed to be prosperous, but in fact, it sucked people's blood. He didn't intend to hurt those innocent passers-by, but Han Fei didn't like the dragon boat at all. If there was a place with many treasures on the dragon boat, it must be the warehouse. In addition, it should be the ghost market. Of course, Han Fei's first choice was the warehouse, but when Little White perceived that the place with the most treasures seemed to be on the 4th and 5th floors, he immediately gave up this plan. After thinking about it for a while, Han Fei made a decision. The employment hall was still in full swing. It seemed that what happened to the black-robed man and the bottom of the boat didn't bring much shock to them. Shouts rose and fell one after another. 3 missing 2, an advanced dangling fisher armorist and a spirit gatherer come to explore the Crescent Spring. For missing 1, an advanced dangling fisher manipulator come to explore the Crescent Spring. A peak-level dangling fisher come to explore the secret realm in a team of 10. Interested parties, please come. The Crescent Spring was a place that was not very dangerous in the level 3 fishery. It was said that under this seabed, there was a crescent-shaped canyon, in which heavy water flowed. In the heavy water, some special spring water would flow out from time to time. It was said that this spring water could strengthen physique, increase the probability of breakthrough, etc. However, this treasure land was not selected as one of the top 10 dangerous places in the level 3 fishery. It could only be said that its value was not high, and the degree of danger was not high, so Han Fei was not interested in it at all. Someone shouted, "For missing 1, an advanced dangling fisher come to find the lost treasure." Han Fei grinned and immediately walked over. Before he could reach them, a soul warrior came up to him. "Hey! Brother, what kind of treasure do you mean by lost treasure?" "Lost treasure is lost treasure. I once read in an ancient book that there may be an ancient treasure hidden near the Crescent Spring." The soul warrior said, "There are ancient books? Okay, I'm in." "Ah. Go away, we want a soul warrior who can dig holes." The soul warrior said, "Dig holes? I can dig holes. What's your spiritual beast?" The soul warrior grinned and said, "I have lobsters and crabs. Do you think I can dig holes?" The fatty pondered for a moment. "Is your spiritual beast exotic?" The soul warrior was stunned. "Are you crazy? If I had an exotic spiritual beast, would I dig a hole for you?" The soul warrior left angrily, and Han Fei stood in front of the little fatty. "Don't embarrass yourself. Let's go." The little fatty's eyes lit up. "Han Fei? You're here?" Han Fei asked telepathically, "Where are Xia Shaochan and the others?" Lu Renquang nodded. "He's next door. I'll call him." A moment later, the 5 of them leaned against the railing. Han Fei said, "Xia Shaochan, I have an arduous task for you." Xia Shaochan's eyes lit up. "How difficult is it?" Han Fei thought for a while. "It's worth at least 500 caddies of spirit awakening fluid." Xia Shaochan immediately said, "What should I do?" Han Fei said, "The treasure house of the dragon boat should be on the 4th or 5th floor. I suspect that it is more likely to be on the 5th floor. However, once we go up to the 5th floor, we will definitely be discovered. So, our first target is the black market." Luo Xiaobai exclaimed, "Is it where those black-robed men are?" Han Fei nodded. "Yes. Let Master Hexagon follow us. It will definitely find the treasure house of the black market." The hexagon starfish was hiding in the clothes under Lu Renquang's shoulder. In order to prevent accidents, he also set up a concealment array for himself. Hearing Han Fei's words, the hexagon starfish asked, "Can I take some?" Han Fei said, "No problem, but time is tight. It's more convenient for Xia Shaochan to take some. I'll give you some later." The hexagon starfish's eyes flickered. It always felt that Han Fei was lying to it. Although it did get a lot of things from Han Fei during this period, those were all defective goods. All the good things were taken by them. Han Fei continued, Next, I will take the initiative to expose my identity and entangle that hanging fissure. Xiao Bai will take the opportunity to find the treasure house on the 5th floor, and I will let Xiao Bai follow you. Luo Xiao Bai frowned and said, "Are you going to face him head-on?" Han Fei smiled and said, "Yes, so what? Don't forget, I have a peak strike with me." Luo Xiao Bai shook her head. "That ancient jade may not be able to kill a hanging fissure. It's just an attack. Are you going to use it at the beginning?" Han Fei chuckled. "Don't worry, I will seize the opportunity. Don't forget, in addition to the immortal seal and the peak strike, I still have the Poison King. Even if I can't beat that old bastard, I can poison him to death." Everyone shuddered at the sight. They all remembered the miserable appearance of the black-robed man just now. The Poison King was simply brutal. Luo Xiaobai said, "Now that you have been exposed, there must be many peak-level dangling fissures on the 5th floor. You will face more than one peak-level dangling fissure. With the strength of Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renquang, I'm afraid they can't control a hanging fissure, not to mention that the other party should be a peak-level hanging fissure." Han Fei smiled faintly. If he can always be at his peak, on the 5th floor of the dragon boat. Xuanyu had been sitting on this dragon boat for more than 3 years. Not everyone could come to the level 3 fishery to sit on a dragon boat. This required not only strength and connections, but also meritorious deeds and military records. All the hanging fishers who could appear in the level 3 fishery were all masters. From the moment the black-robed man was poisoned just now, Wu Yu knew that Han Fei had come to him blatantly. Although Han Fei's disguise skill was indeed brilliant, in the end, he was still just a dangling fisher. He didn't think Han Fei could pose a threat to him. The only thing that made Xuan Yu in a bad mood was the poison used by Han Fei. He didn't know how Han Fei came up with that thing. Although he had taken a lot of anti-poison fruits that were better than those in the level 3 fishery, it didn't mean that he could completely resist it. Therefore, Xuan Yu planned to kill Han Fei as soon as he appeared, leaving no room for negotiation. At this moment, a black-robed man stood behind him. "My lord, the treasure house has been arranged. If Han Fei goes there, he will find nothing." Xuan Yu nodded, his expression indifferent. "Okay. Then wait for him. I'd like to see what the students from the Thug Academy are like after 30 years. Just when Xuan Yu was calmly waiting for Han Fei, a fish hook suddenly appeared in the air, and there was something black hanging on the hook. "Ha! 1,000-mile fishing technique? Disperse." Xuan Yu raised his hand and a golden handprint slapped at the fishing hook. He didn't know what the black ball was, but it was probably the kind of poison that could make people vomit and have diarrhea. Bam! The poisonous smoke king exploded and dissipated in the air in an instant, colorless and odorless, disappearing without a trace. Xuan Yu shouted, "Step back. Array, rise." When a blue light curtain enveloped Xuan Yu and the people nearby, it suddenly began to rain heavily. Many black-robed men on the top of the dragon boat were caught off guard. They could avoid the battle, but what about the rain? Even a fishing master was not necessarily afraid of being drenched in the rain. They knew that the rain must be mixed with poison, but the premise was that the rain had to be drenched on their bodies to have a chance to poison them, right? But this was simply impossible. They only needed to support their bodies with a spiritual energy protective cover, and the rain couldn't touch them at all. Clank, 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 those peak-level dangling fishers who were drenched in the rain were still carefully probing around, but suddenly found that they were surrounded by blades. Not good, the rain has turned into blades. Bam, 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 at the moment when the rain turned into blades, explosions broke out in at least dozens of places on the dragon boat. In the black market on the 3rd floor of the dragon boat, shadow blades flew everywhere, and a closed door was directly broken by Xia Shaochan. In a certain area on the 5th floor of the dragon boat, large tracts of colorful smoke suddenly emerged. On the entire dragon boat, many people were dumbfounded and looked up one after another. "Oh, someone is attacking the ship. Wow! Han Fei, it must be Han Fei and the others." Someone exclaimed, "How dare they attack the dragon boat with just a few people?" Crazy, crazy, Han Fei is a lunatic. Let's go. Don't be affected by the poison. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.